75.
Whitby, how much is fish and chips?
3 of us, fish chips, peas, I think one of us curry sauce, 3 cans of pop, just short of 70 quid.
£70? That's 23 quid a head, man. Even my maths does that. Very quickly, a voice note. Campbell in Scotland, go.
Up here in Banff in the northeast of Scotland, we can get a fillet and a half of haddock with a regular chips for £8 and 10 pence, and it's by far and away one of the best chippies I've ever had.
Kenneth in Surrey, fish and chips, go.
Fish and chips in Ascot, about half a mile from where you used to live, will cost you £12 and 60 pence. Great show. Keep up the good work.
That's why I moved, because you were living there. When was the last time you had fish and chips?
Couple of weeks ago.
How much? Where'd you get it from?
I think it was about 40 quid. It was in the Ivy.
Honestly, you really are. For any of you who think he's a man of the people, I nearly said you're a...
Keeping it real.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory. It's 3 minutes past 6. It is, of course, a Thursday, the 14th of August, midway through the month already. I don't know where the time is going. I tell you what, I know when you get older, the time seems to pass even quicker than it used to. But here we are. Emma Wolf is here with me. Very good morning to Emma. Looking very splendid in green and looking as if she's ready for the off. Because what we've got this morning is a whole bunch of stories that prove once again that I've always been right, I've never been wrong, and once again the NHS and the government and everybody else in politics is having to cow down to what I've said and admit that they've actually got it completely wrong. To wit, the story on page, what is it? Where are we? I can't find it now. Anyway, somewhere in the Daily Mail, it is saying that NHS appointments scandal has actually been left out, has been put out to dry, really, because we've been proved that the public have been misled over NHS appointments. Actually on page 2 of the Daily Telegraph. Basically, it turns out that people have been dying and they've been taken off the list. People have had their appointments cancelled, taken off the list. People have been told that they should write in if they want to keep their appointment. They haven't written in, so they've been taken off the list. So once again, we have been proved absolutely and utterly correct that actually the reason why appointments have been supposedly coming down, waiting lists have supposedly been coming down, is because we've been hoodwinked by the government and by the NHS. It's as simple as that. Lots of stories about Donald Trump this morning as well, warning Vladimir Putin that he must kowtow to what Donald Trump wants in order to stop the war in Ukraine. We'll be talking about that. Lots of other stories around shoplifting. The Daily Express has got the front page saying don't put high-end expensive goods anywhere near a door because people will just come in and nick them, which is not really a great idea, is it? And also, the BBC, having offended Robert Jenrick by calling him a xenophobe, have apparently climbed down, according to the front page of the Daily Mail, on Radio 4, and have said, oh, we shouldn't have said that, because it turns out the guy who did say it on Thought for the Day was, of course, a bloke who was a doctor, but who was also the bloke who runs a refugee charity. Absolutely unbelievable stuff. 0344 499 1000. Rod Little's got a 10-point plan to stop migration. We'll be talking about that. The TikTok migrant from yesterday has facing calls to be kicked out of the country. We'll talk about David Lammy, who went fishing with J.D. Vance over in Chevening, and it turns out he didn't have a licence for it. Apparently you can only fish with your own rod. You can't fish with somebody else's rod. Poor old Lammy didn't catch any fish, but what he did catch was a £2,500 fine for fishing without a licence. What a complete and utter plank. I see no... It wasn't exactly like the loaves and fishes scenario, was it? Also, apparently it turns out Angela Rayner is behind the idea that if you're working and it's a bit hot, you should be able to take some time off. So she's all about that. And also Sharon Davis, apparently, is going to get a peerage. I'm all for that. We're going to try and talk to her later on in the show. It's coming up to 5 minutes past 6. I'm Mike Graham. This, of course, is Morning Glory. We are going to be getting it on all day. And if I were you, I would stay with us right here until 10 o'clock. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It is, of course, a beautiful day, a beautiful morning, the 14th of August. I can't believe, Emma, very good morning to you.
Good morning.
How on earth we've reached sort of midway through August already?
I know.
The dog days of August are already kind of here.
We are, and it is such beautiful weather, Mike, but are you
Well,
not...
hang on, until yesterday, when it started bucketing down...
What was that about?
I was filming Plank of the Week, right? And my friend Donald was down
I was
from
in
Scotland.
a paddling pool with some child of mine, and it suddenly just...
And I came out and I was like, have you seen what the weather's doing?
Ridiculous.
It was like literally torrential
with
rain.
zero warning as well.
Yeah.
There was like a few grey clouds on something I looked at, but no, I mean, it was quite dramatic.
Yeah,
lightning,
incredible.
Thunder, the works.
Now, can I just point out to you, before we go anywhere to talk about any stories, the weirdest picture of the day for me is on the front page of the Times, the Pope receiving a look-alike doll from a group of nuns during yesterday's
which they have literally
audience
crocheted
at the Vatican. Hello?
Very weird.
I'm sorry, this looks to me like a very, very strange scenario. The nuns, there's like 4 nuns, right, giving him a doll. It's like, what are you, child?
They've given him a crochet doll of a pope.
Of El Papa. It's very weird.
It's very odd. I thought they were
weird.
children when I glanced at it, and then I realised they're actually nuns.
No.
But people do say nuns are quite childlike sometimes. Maybe this is what they do in their spare time.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm sure Catholics will hate it that I've said this, but I'm a Catholic, so I can say it. Don't care. Anyway, it's very weird. Just stop. Don't do it.
Just don't
make
do it.
dolls.
Creepy, weird.
Now, we've talked about the NHS before.
But can we go back to the dog days of August?
Yes.
Because are you not noticing with a kind of melancholy, and I know it's silly to say this, and people going, oh, soon be Christmas and all of that. Can we just mark in some way the fact that the evenings are getting so dark at about 7, 8 o'clock? You start to sort of stumble and fall. The mornings are much darker. I mean, 4 o'clock, it's still dark.
I used to come into work even just about a month ago.
About a month ago. You get a good 4 weeks when it's glorious and light.
I don't mind that it's dark in the morning because actually I'm getting up in the middle of the night as far as I'm concerned. So to get up at 4 o'clock...
But the evenings...
The evenings I'd prefer if they were longer, but I don't really mind.
It's just that it changes so quickly at this time of year. That's my problem with it. Suddenly, you're into August and then it's winter.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Okay, all right, I get that. I'm very much of a sort of absolutist about these things. It's like, you know it's going to come, you know winter's coming.
Every year, though.
I
think it's going to be a grim winter. I think Labour's second winter in this country...
Winter of discontent.
Winter of discontent. I think it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
I just got this feeling.
I mean, so far we've got through till the middle of August and there haven't been the sort of riots and the unrest that people said there would be.
No.
There have been lots of very, very good and peaceful demonstrations.
Yes, they have.
And they'll continue.
Yeah.
And so thus far, we've managed to avoid the riots.
Yes.
And if we can get through the summer without that, I think that would be a good thing. But for Starmer, I mean, he's taken this country into hell, basically. The guy is ruining Britain.
Well, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And you see people occasionally popping up on X, these weirdos who go, look at how good everything is. You don't, no one is...
Listen,
they're very odd.
No, this is a concerted campaign.
Have you seen?
By lefties,
and they list
like
things.
John Rentoul, Fraser Nelson, various others who
never been a better place to live. Oh, by the way, we're
forget
behind
about
Italy.
What you're hearing from the right wing. Forget about what you're hearing from ordinary people. This is actually the greatest time to be in Britain. It's the greatest country in the world. You know, the country is going down the toilet, right? Everybody knows that. You've seen it. I can see it. And I'm not going to be in any way swayed by these people who seem to be trying to convince me that it's never been better to live in Britain.
It's really, really odd.
Bugger
because
off.
It's not
Just
what
get
people
lost.
are feeling and living and experiencing at all.
No.
And the figures aren't showing that either.
No, exactly.
Oh, look, there are all these vacancies. There are all these jobs. You know, GDP has never been higher, and it's just simply not true.
It's really not true. But I believe that to be a concerted campaign, probably by people in government who are trying to use these various different kind of messengers.
The past few weeks.
Yeah,
really
but it's a concerted
campaign
by these lefties who are definitely trying to convince us of something that isn't true. And so
almost
I'm very
as though
suspicious
people
of it.
are so fatigued with the whole thing that they'll just accept you know, if they're told that they'll go, okay, well, that must be true.
Actually, yeah, because especially, because they're banking on the fact that a lot of young people, for example, people in their 20s and 30s, don't remember what Britain used to be like.
Exactly.
And don't remember, actually, that it was a lot better in the 80s, a lot better in the 70s, even when there were national strikes going on.
Of course they don't remember. You know? Of course they don't remember.
They don't remember that, but I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to tell you right now, and right here, that Britain has never been in a worse state than it is now. So forget what you're listening to from Fraser Nelson, you know, with his crappy Highland accent. It's not great, okay? It's not. It really isn't. Anyway, let's talk about the NHS, right?
Yes.
Apparently the NHS has misled the public, and this is a think tank, right, which has come out with this. This is the Nuffield Trust, which is not in any way, shape or form a right-wing organisation.
Come on, the Nuffield Trust does their homework.
They said that 245,000 appointments have been removed from the list every month because patients have either died, had treatment elsewhere, or moved abroad. And I've been saying this for ages, right? Let's go back and see what Starmer said about his biggest achievement. Have a look.
Amongst the things, I could do a whole list, but I'm really proud that a year ago, probably, I was interviewed by you and I said we'd do 2 million extra appointments in the NHS in the first year of a Labour government. We've now done 3 million and waiting lists are coming down. There's a whole list of other things that I could probably go on about for a very, very long time.
That was when we were on that crappy NATO summit, right?
Yeah.
When he went to Canada.
The hills are alive with the sound of music.
And by the next week he was saying, oh, it's actually 4 million now.
Yeah.
And then he actually said 4.5 million. The next time we see him, it will be 7 million.
I'm afraid he was pulling numbers out of his backside, basically. He really was.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't work like that. And what this report is saying from the Nuffield Trust is that things have been moved around. People, as you say, people have died, people have moved abroad. People have that hospitals have decided that people no longer need to be seen, and they're removed. So you can just remove people from waiting lists, which is actually not the same. It's not the same as waiting lists. When you hear waiting lists have come down, the clear message in that is we've seen people, we're moving people through the system.
Right.
It is really,
the message is
it's actually really dishonest.
It's really dishonest. The message is that we are dealing with the backlog and we are seeing more people
We're treating people.
We're treating
What is the point of the NHS, Mike? What is the point?
Well, there is no point, right? Because everybody that I know who's got anything to do with the NHS tells me that it's completely and utterly stagnating. It's completely and utterly in a place of putrefaction and nothing's happening. Right, have a look at this. This is him claiming that not only was it 4 million, this is from last month, it's now 4.5 million.
We're happily going to go to our constituents. We're going to tell them we promised 2 million extra NHS appointments and we delivered 4 million extra appointments.
I mean, he's completely deluded, isn't he? Completely deluded.
Completely. And what this report actually states, while the waiting list has started to go down, unreported removals have gone up. In fact, they've repeatedly outnumbered the additional incomplete referrals that join the waiting list every month. So it's this thing about unreported removals. You can remove people from waiting lists.
Yes.
That's not treating them.
People that talk to me, and I'm going to ask you to do it again because it's always a good exercise in sort of public policy, is you tell me what's happening with your definition of what the NHS is doing, because people tell me every single day that I had an appointment made for August and now it's been cancelled. Now I've got an appointment in September. They'll probably cancel that. This is now my 4th appointment. I still haven't seen anybody. You know, this is what's going on. So I'd love to hear from all of you, please. Do send me your messages on 0344 499 1000, text us on 87222, tweet us at talkTV, because everybody with any brains knows that the NHS is broken. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
Right?
And just to repeat that, it's about 2.4 million appointments have been removed from the backlog. So when he's claiming 2 million, 4 million, that doesn't
8
even...
million. I mean,
but they are actually reporting 2.5 million appointments have been removed.
So
that's not seeing anyone. That's not treating anyone.
No, and everyone that I know that I speak to, and quite a lot of people...
And in our lives,
say that they've had about 4 appointments made for every one chance they get to see somebody.
And if you do get an appointment, they're usually, and I do remember a decade ago, you would be seen in a few weeks. Right? Now you get a hospital appointment if you need to be seen for anything. It'll be months away. It'll literally be November appointment. I've got a little kid who waited a year and a half to be seen at Moorfields to get glasses. That's wrong.
I know. But I know from being a parent that, you know, when your child is under 5, you're in and out of hospitals all the time. You're in and out of A&Es because, you know, they fall over or they do something stupid or they, you know, spray hairspray in their eye or something idiotic, right?
Peanut up their nose.
Right, exactly. But so what have you found, like, over the last, say, couple of years, whenever you've had to use the NHS?
7 hours waiting, even though an under 5 is meant to be seen within 4 hours.
Yeah.
Then you get to the end of it and they go, oh, sorry, you can't sew that up now. It should have been done within 4 hours. So then they can't sew it up. You know, I mean,
I remember
little
when I was
stitches
just
and
living in
whatever.
Scotland, one of my kids fell down the stairs, right?
Yeah.
And the most thing they were interested in was whether or not we'd beaten him to death, you know?
Yeah,
they were
exactly.
like, they took us into separate rooms to ask us how it happened.
And started to interview you and how it happened.
Started to interview you like as if you'd been some kind of criminal. I'm like, you fell down the stairs. I'm sorry.
You're not social services.
I wasn't watching him at the time.
Exactly.
He's very active. He's a pain in the arse, basically, and he's got a cut on his head because he fell down the stairs. I'm not trying to kill him.
Oh, I've definitely had social services kind of raising their eyebrows.
I'd like
people
to kill
like
him,
that.
but that's another story.
Yeah, of course.
But you know, that's the thing. The point is that you know they're more interested in the kind of stuff that's off to the side. Than the stuff that's actually real.
Exactly.
And sorting out, you know, what your problem is.
But that's for young children, but I'm sure we all have elderly people in our lives and they're waiting and waiting and waiting and things that aren't deemed life-threatening, like hip replacements, which are basically making people's lives a misery. And then they want to slap, you know, VAT on private healthcare because people give up at the end of their lives. They give up and think, well, I'll spend all my savings on living a life pain-free. I mean, you really couldn't make it up. And it's so dishonest. Just to come back to that report, it's just so dishonest to claim all this stuff about appointments.
This is what I think people hate about this government, is that, you know, everybody understands if things are difficult, if you suddenly get yourself into a kind of a doom loop of financial crisis, right, which is what they've done, but they just lie all the time, every single day. We carry it as almost a joke, but, you know, at 8 o'clock today, just after 8 o'clock, Keir Starmer will put out some kind of tweet which will be absolute crap. Right, rubbish about nothing at all, which has nothing to do with anything that anybody cares about. He still hasn't addressed the migrant problem. He still hasn't addressed the fact that boats are getting bigger. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. He still hasn't addressed the fact that there are demonstrations up and down the country now in every single town and city in the land because people are fed up with being, you know, foisted upon by these horrible, ghastly people coming from other countries.
Which is changing the nature of our country.
And I'm going to call them that because, you know, these are not people that we want in our country. They're horrible, nasty, you know, brutish, misogynistic, women-hating scumbags, and suddenly we're giving them everything and letting them stay here.
Everything.
And we don't want them.
Taxing British people to the hilt.
And we don't have to, you know, they don't deserve our sort of, you know, generosity. They don't deserve our sort of, you know, happiness or anything.
And why are they here when other countries are not doing their bit and not housing them up, not putting them up in hotels or giving them accommodation or giving them jobs or any of that? How do they end up here? How again and again and again is the UK accepting this? And whenever you challenge lefties on this, Mike, they will say to you, oh, but it's the 14 years of the Tories. How can you ignore it? It's the 14 years of Tories. Hang on a minute. We're a year and a half, almost, into this, well, a year and a bit into this administration. There comes a point at which they need to start looking at what Starmer is actually doing.
Listen,
and
no
taking
question the
responsibility.
Tories are just as much to blame, and they did a terrible job
along the way,
However, that's not the end of the story. The story now is getting worse. I mean, look at the front page of Daily Mail today. BBC climbs down over xenophobe slur on Robert Jenrick. Robert Jenrick was accused of being a xenophobe by a bloke who was doing Thought for the Day. Dr. Krish Kandaya prompted fury when he used Thought for the Day to basically say that Robert Jenrick said he was worried for his young daughters and defended protests against asylum hotels without any reference to the fact that Dr. Kandaya is the patron of a refugee charity. Well, they allowed him to go on there and say, this man is a xenophobe.
But even if he wasn't, I don't care what Chris Kandaya does, but yeah, exactly. This is this virtue signalling segment on Radio 4 every morning, Thought for the Day, where they basically attack anyone who has, you know, views about Britain or feels strongly or loves their country. And this is, you know, what he is saying about calling him a xenophobe. He said, in other words, this is xenophobia. Because Robert Jenrick wrote about fearing for his 3 daughters. And
perfectly genuine.
Yeah, but this is what you're hearing at these protests up and down the country, is people in their communities saying we don't feel safe anymore. Women in pink, grandmothers, mothers, girls in pink saying it's not safe for us to go out.
Saying they don't.
They're not even saying I feel. They're saying it's not safe for us to go out, to play out, to be outdoors, to walk home alone, to come back from work alone. It's not safe for us on our streets. So to call that xenophobia, I mean, you're just basically, you know, you're ignoring what people are actually experiencing.
So this bloke runs a thing called the Sanctuary Foundation, describes itself as a charity supporting refugees to find welcome, work and worthwhile housing in the UK. Get lost, mate. Unless you're putting your own money in and you're putting people up in your own house, you know, I don't want to hear your bleeding preaching about how we should all be welcoming to these scumbags, as I say, who come into this country, who rape women, who sexually assault women, who don't understand that women have rights, and who think that basically they can treat women like chattels.
Should be covered from head to foot, but also
bugger off.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
I'm not interested in people from Eritrea or bloody Sudan or Afghanistan. If you can't be a civilised individual, you can't live in my country. I'm sorry. That's what we should be saying.
I know.
You know, and now they're arriving on even bigger boats, right? According to the Daily Mail, now it's big boat migrants. 107 came in on a super-sized dinghy yesterday. So it makes an even bigger mockery of old Keir Starmer smashing the gangs. He's not smashing the gangs. They're actually now getting bigger boats.
There are some astonishing photos in the Telegraph and in the Mail. I urge people to look at these because, I mean, this is becoming a joke. This isn't people... You know, it started out little dinghies, little boats sneaking in under cover of darkness. People are now coming across, as you say, over 107, I think is the latest tally on one of these mega dinghies. They're not dinghies.
They're mega dinghies. They're not small boats.
This is a business. And they're coming in, and it's daylight, and we can see them. And what is going on?
Well, I said this the other day because the Mail sent somebody over to the North Shores of France and Calais, and you can see these people sitting on these boats. They don't look like they're worried about drowning because they're not going to drown.
They're not going to drown. No, these are seriously...
Occasionally there's a mistake that happens, but it's a bit like saying occasionally people crash their cars and die. You know, this is not a risky operation. These people are coming here and they're very, very confident they're going to get from Calais to France, to London, to Dover without any kind of problem whatsoever.
Mike, these are pretty robust boats. Look at that.
Very robust.
You couldn't just, you know, stick a penknife in the side of that. They're very, very strong boats. And actually, when there is a tragedy, it's usually involving a woman and a child or something like that. But these men seem to get across absolutely fine.
They absolutely don't have a problem at all. It really is. It's quite staggering. But of course, we've now got the point where we've got 50,716.
You reached your 50,000.
The official number. I said we would. And there'll be another 500 or so that will arrive today. Migrant numbers for 2025 only 27,474 since January the 1st. It is
I think it's up something like 50% on last year, the same time last year.
Complete
and it is an absolute shambles. And I think what's really making people angry is not just the crossings, the brazen crossings, and the fact that it's a business. And we hear this nonsense about smashing the gangs, and nothing has been done. We had that Turkish bloke who was apparently making parts for a boat that he was smashed, wasn't he? Early on.
We still don't know whether he's actually been charged.
Well, who was he anyway? He wasn't behind all this.
Yeah, but he hasn't gone to prison. We haven't heard any stories about whether or not he's been put in jail.
But it was Keir Starmer's greatest, you know, proudest moment, wasn't it, really? He found this man somewhere.
We found a man,
and this will be...
He's been responsible for all the boats. And, of course, ever since he's been arrested, there's even more people have come.
Of course.
So he obviously clearly wasn't that responsible.
He wasn't responsible for anything.
You know.
But I think what's really making people angry is the fact that more and more is being made clear about what they're getting. They're coming here and just getting free healthcare, free, you know, free schooling, accommodation, jobs, gyms,
free tickets to
English lessons, hair extensions, nails, anything that makes them feel better about settling in this country. All of this nonsense.
When was the last time you got something free from this country?
Absolutely.
Right?
When was the last time I paid them more tax? For goodness sake.
Right.
And then you have people we've seen at those protests filming out of hotels and laughing at the British people who are. You know, and
just
I think there's...
Mickey.
Yeah, I think people are reaching peak kind of despair on this one. And rage, actually, anger.
People have had enough, and I'm absolutely with you. And we are here to amplify your distaste for what is going on. Because it's time we actually said the words, these scumbags are coming to this country and ruining it. And let's put a stop to it, please. Thank you very much indeed. Let's get a voice note.
Why does Starmer think he can solve the world's problems all the time? I mean, I see him on the telly yesterday heading up the coalition of the willing, whatever that means, with the French and the Germans. Now, Macron's tapped him up for the best part of £1 billion and we're still waiting to see if the French police will get their feet wet. And no one's ever heard of the German Chancellor. He needs to spend more time concentrating on what's going on in this country and less time sticking his nose into other people's business, and the country might not be in the mess that it currently is. Anyway, all the best, Mike.
That's from Lee. Thank you very much indeed. A good way to start the show this morning. People are sick to the back teeth of Starmer and his completely useless inability to actually see what's in front of him, and instead look overseas to try and figure out whether he's important or not. Have a look at this. He's on a phone call here with J.D. Vance and various other European leaders.
This meeting on Friday that President Trump is attending is hugely important. And as I've said personally to President Trump. Look, for 3 and a bit years this conflict has been going on, and we haven't got anywhere near the prospect of actually a viable solution, a viable way of bringing it to a ceasefire. And now we do have that chance because of the work that the President has put in. And
what's he talking about?
Was that his actual phone call?
Yeah, I think so.
So he's just telling them what the problem is?
Yeah,
We all know that. We all know that.
Yeah, it's like, he's so insignificant. And they're all sitting on the other end of the phone going...
I think they've just wandered off.
Sorry. I mean, sorry. I can't. I'm going to have to stop now because I'm going to start swearing. It's 25 minutes past 6. And we are, of course, Morning Glory. We will be back, me and Emma Wolf, after this.
I mean, I do think that nationality is very interesting, but there needs to be very, very clear statistics collected on immigration status as well. You know, not just whether someone's an asylum seeker, but if they are a refugee, in other words, they've been granted a right to remain, how long have they been in this country? How long since they were granted their right to remain? All of this is to do with building up a picture so that we know what it is we're doing in our country.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 28 minutes past 6, actually, and as predicted, I've got loads of great messages from all of you. Thank you very much indeed for sending them in about the NHS. We've been talking, Emma Wolf is here, talking about the fact that it looks like the government and the NHS have misled us all about how appointments are being dealt with and why appointments are somehow being given out more frequently now than they ever were, and how somehow Wes Streeting has created this miracle of giving people more access to the NHS. How about this, right, from Peter in Suffolk. Morning, Mike and Emma. My wife was removed from the list because she gave up and had her hip done privately. While I waited in reception, virtually everyone who came into the private hospital was self-funding. Stephen Cambridge says, I had an appointment in January and this has been cancelled 7 times. I was seen last week, only to be told to come back next month due to staff holidays. Exactly right. One from Damon in Wigan. I had a back operation 15 months ago and I'm still waiting for my 6-week review. My appointment is always cancelled and now I'm having problems again. This is the thing. So Damon, somebody like Damon will have had probably 7 or 8 appointments made, right? Yeah. And then Starmer will stand up in the House of Commons and go, well, 4.5 million appointments more have been made. And nobody's being seen.
No one is being seen.
It's a complete rip-off. It's rubbish.
And the thing is, they can say it as much as they like, but all you need to do is, I mean, everybody's experience. If everybody's experiences were getting better,
right,
then they would all say, oh, OK, yes, we believe him. But when everybody is having these experiences or going private, saving up, and this assumption that if you save up to have a hip replacement because you're in agony, oh, you must be wealthy, you must be really wealthy, oh, just private healthcare. It's not. The reality is, like the message there says, you know, people are saving up to self-fund because they've given up hope, because they've given up waiting on the NHS, having paid in all their life. It's really wrong, isn't it?
It really is.
Really
I mean,
wrong.
when you want the NHS to help you, many people just find, look, it can't help me. So I'm not going to go to the GP. I'm not going to bother going to an A&E because I'm just going to wait there for hours and hours on end. I'm just going to go private.
And most of us don't need the NHS a lot. You need it when you have a baby. You need it maybe at the, you know, in later life if you get cancer. You need it once in a while. Certainly in later life if you need things like hips or, you know, knee replacements or whatever. But we're not there every day. I don't want to go to hospitals or GPs. You don't want to have contact with people. You don't want to waste resources. But I think when people have paid in, the ones who have paid in, it should be there.
It should be there. Absolutely.
And it should be functional.
That's the point of it. How about this from Ellie in Staffordshire? Morning, Mike. My daughter has MS. She had an MRI scan cancelled by letter. She phoned and said, I never had the appointment in the first place, and then they sent another letter with the appointment they cancelled, and then another letter cancelling it again, all in 1 week.
It's a joke.
What the hell's going on?
It really is a joke. And that's another thing they could look at. These endless, you know, you have an appointment, even when you've had the appointment, you'll then, a few days later, you get this sort of follow-up letter going, oh, you've got an appointment. You think, well, why are you sending all this stuff out?
I know. What a
and they're
waste
very
of time.
needy, the NHS. If you have an appointment, they'll ring and text you about a million times.
Right.
That's fine. I've got the appointment. It's in the diary. Stop it.
Yeah,
Stop
and then you get there, and it turns out the doctor's on holiday.
Exactly.
So I'm afraid they can't see you. Let's talk about Donald Trump. He's on the front pages a lot this morning. Trump in warning to Putin on the eve of talks. Big summit meeting coming up at the weekend in Alaska. Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to be supposedly meeting up and talking about ending the conflict in Ukraine. President Trump has threatened Russia with severe consequences if it rejects a ceasefire in Ukraine. I mean, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's going to turn out to be true. I think Trump will get a ceasefire of some kind or another, even if it doesn't last. I think he'll get a result, won't he?
He will get a result. There's so much scepticism. The Guardian are practically like, this is very dangerous. This is very dangerous. In a room on their own with no... It's a hilarious piece in The Guardian about in a room on their own with no advisors, and they might agree to anything. It's kind of, oh, you remember what they did last time?
I know.
Well...
It's like, what does The Guardian know about international politics?
They know nothing.
Literally the square root of F all, to be honest.
You know what? At least Donald Trump is trying.
He's making it happen.
He's actually making more steps towards peace. He's got Putin to the table tomorrow in Anchorage, in Alaska. I think he will come up with something. I'm not sure what Zelensky's going to do about it, because he's still saying, well, we're not giving up this, we're not giving up that.
He's looking tiny in the papers today, by the way.
But he is standing next to
the German Chancellor.
Yeah, who is, I think, 6 foot 29.
He looks like a child.
He looks tiny and really unhappy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look, it all depends on... And then Trump wants to follow up with a kind of trilateral between Putin and Zelensky, doesn't he?
Right.
I think he's doing something.
Yeah, and let's face it, you know, we would all like to see an end to the war in Ukraine. Nobody wants to see, you know, people suffering. But at the end of the day, what we don't want as well is for us to continually, you know, promise billions and billions and billions of pounds in aid. We haven't got the money. We can't afford it anymore.
It can't go on. 3.5 years now. At least Trump is taking decisive action and saying, let's get around a table and talk about this. Bashing Putin and kind of Zelensky's heads together. They've got to agree something. No, I don't like Putin any more than anyone else does. You know, and one's always kind of, oh, you Putin apologist. No, not at all. But I think if you give Obama the Nobel Peace Prize, I think Donald Trump deserves it hands down.
I mean, Peter Hitchens was very good on this. He said, you know, the trouble is that the people who are critical of Donald Trump, and because he's no fan of Donald Trump, he said they just want to keep going with war. They just want to keep the war going. And that is not where we are. Let's have a look at what Trump had to say yesterday about consequences for Russia.
There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing. Again, this is Biden's war. This isn't my war. He got us into this thing, and it should have never happened. This war would have never happened if I were president. But it is what it is, and I'm here to fix it.
Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
There will be consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes. Yeah, please.
He also talks about a Russia hoax. Have a look at this.
I would have had a good conversation with Vladimir. I knew him very well. I got along with him great, actually. We had I had to go through the Russia hoax. And it was actually, it was a strain on the relationship. I actually told him, I said, you know, they got this phony investigation going on, Russia, totally phony, created by Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and Hillary Clinton and the whole group of them. And it made it very dangerous for our country because I was unable to really deal with Russia the way we should have been. I'm looking at Pam because I hope something's going to be done about it. These people put our country at great danger.
Shifty Schiff. He can't help it, can he? He's brilliant. He can't help it.
And unhinged Clinton.
I know.
Reports. I mean, really.
Hillary Clinton. I mean,
was really not all the full
no
whack, was she at all?
She really wasn't. No. I mean, thank goodness.
Been really hushed up.
Two really good things happened in sort of the last 10 years. Hillary Clinton didn't win the election, and neither did Kamala Harris. Can you imagine where we would be if Kamala Harris had won?
Oh, I mean,
and she'd
crazy.
be sitting there cackling away.
Really strange woman.
I know, very odd indeed. We've got loads more to do. I've got some great messages coming in. This one from Paul in Hitchin, who says this. Emma, in 2021, I had a kidney donor clinic where a trace amount of blood was detected in my urine. The hospital wrote to my GP to follow up. I had no further communication. The same clinic in 2022 asked what was happening. I said nothing. They again wrote to the GP. I finally, at the end of 2023, had an appointment for April 2024. This was cancelled and rebooked for October 2024. I had the appointment, prescribed medication, told I would be sent an appointment for 6 months, April 2025. I received no text or letter. Then, in May 2025, had a letter saying I was discharged from the clinic for non-attendance. I spent 2 hours on the phone, managed to rebook for September 2025. Unbelievable incompetence, obviously only having one kidney. I want to look after it.
That is shocking.
So we're talking
4
about
years.
4 years of, you know, being messed around, pushed around, appointments made, appointments cancelled, and then struck off the list for not showing up.
For someone who has
That's the NHS,
one kidney,
right?
Exactly. It's a combination of incompetence and, I don't know, an inability to deal with, you know, important situations fast.
Yeah. They're just not any good.
Months going... No, they're not. They're not.
You know, people don't like to hear it. They go, oh, but they're angels, you know, they're so great, you know, the nurses, they're so lovely, and, you know, they're working so hard and they're helping people. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, they're not actually. They're crap at their job.
As a system...
And the NHS is useless, and none of it works. And I don't know who to blame for it, but certainly it's not anything that we should be proud of at all, anywhere near.
I agree. As a system, it's completely broken.
Yeah, it's absolute... I'm quite angry this morning. I don't know why. It's 6:37. We'll be back after this.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, 6:39. Emma Wolf is here as well. Let's get a voice note from Steve.
Steve from Barnsley. Morning, Mike. Love listening to your show. I listen to it mostly every day. But can we please stop talking about that liar Starmer? just for a few weeks. Let's have some happy shows. Happy shows.
Well, I'd like to stop talking about Keir Starmer, but unfortunately, he keeps popping up every now and then into my timeline to tell me what he's doing to fix the country. We are setting out some construction workers' jobs, and, you know, he just talks absolute crap every day.
Wasn't there some rumour that he was going somewhere hot? Wasn't it meant to be this week, and we maybe get a bit of peace and quiet? He was going on holiday somewhere. Right. But I suppose that's
Can you imagine being on holiday and having that idiot turning up and you go, oh, Keir Starmer's here, oh, great.
Around the pool or something.
You know, Do you remember last time he went on holiday to Madeira and his kids jumped the queue to get on some sled ride, right? And he managed to even get that wrong. You know. This bloke is an absolute disaster. He's a car crash. He's the worst Prime Minister of all time, right? They don't like it when I call him a liar, but he's a liar. Everybody says he's a liar. There is not one person in the United Kingdom that thinks Keir Starmer tells the truth about anything.
I've always felt he was a shifty, dishonest man.
Yeah. Let's talk about let's talk about the TikTok migrant who was on the front page of the Sun yesterday.
Makes me very angry.
Not on the front page of the Sun today. However, a big spread in the paper: kick him out of here. It says asylum hotel bragger came from a safe country. He's supposed to be from Afghanistan, this guy, right? And according to Chris Philp, Tory MP, Shadow Home Secretary, the Home Office and the police should be urgently investigating this man. He's all over TikTok. Right, he's boasting about the fact that he's broken into Britain. He's telling other people how to do it. And why has he not been apprehended?
He's all over TikTok. We've got images of him. He used to live in Germany, but then he decided it was more soft touch in the UK. He would get more benefits here. He was worried about the AFD's plans to crack down on illegal migrants. He's all over TikTok. He's telling people how to come here. He's, I think, being put up in this Crown Plaza at Heathrow at the moment.
Yeah.
It is absolutely shocking that this man is still, well, the Tory MP Chris Philp, who is absolutely brilliant, by the way. Robert Jenrick and Chris Philp are my heroes at the moment. Says the Home Office and the police should be urgently investigating this man. But I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, we can see who he is. Presumably they know where he is.
Right. Well, we know where he is. He's in the bleeding Crown Plaza at Heathrow.
We know where he is.
It's all over the papers.
Why is he allowed to live in this country?
Yeah.
After what he said on TikTok about coming here.
They should send a squad to the Crown Plaza in Heathrow.
And deport him.
I mean, according to Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer last Friday, everybody coming here illegally will be detained, right? This guy came on Saturday, wasn't detained. He was taken to Manston, which is the processing plant before he got sent to a hotel near Heathrow. So they're lying again. They're not detaining anybody. You know, they've maybe detained 3 people.
And I thought they were cracking down. Weren't the police going to become social media experts and crack down? Oh, they're only cracking down on us. They're only cracking down on us for sending hurty tweets and other people, but they're not cracking down on this guy.
No.
Who's been in Germany.
We know who he is.
In Germany, on social media, warning other Afghan asylum seekers, don't come to Germany, they're cracking down on us.
And if people think that this guy is in need of help, right, just have a look at his face in the Sun, pages 4 and 5 today. You know, he is taking the absolute mickey out of hard-working, tax-paying members of society, right?
Absolutely.
My money that I just paid, I paid approximately 50,000 quid to the government, right, in July for various different taxes that they wanted. This is feeding this bloke.
It is.
He's getting up and getting breakfast, he's getting lunch, he's getting dinner, he's getting a free ride to wherever he wants to go. He's living high in the hog.
No, it makes...
driving me insane!
It makes one so angry because there is not...
Sorry.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
There is not money.
Well, I want to go there now. I want to go to Heathrow with a camera crew, find him, drag him out of his room, put him on a plane. He's right next to Heathrow. Send him back to bloody Afghanistan and Kabul and see how he likes it there.
But that's the thing, Mike. Deport them. Not this endless appeal process. Not this detention process. Just deport these people. And the thing is, he's well dressed. He's well dressed, he's groomed, he's had a haircut, he's got his
clothes
beard
for him as well.
Neatly trimmed.
Sure he has.
This guy is doing fine. He's not a refugee in any sense. He's not starving.
No.
He's posing in France. He's posing in Germany.
Yeah.
What on their social media kind of policing, what are they not following up? Why can't they go and deport this man?
I know. What are they waiting for?
What's his claim? What's his claim based on?
Yeah, exactly. A right to a family life or what? I don't know. He's got a wife. He's probably got a wife and kids back in Afghanistan. They're all dressed in black. Can't see them. You know, I don't know how you remember your wife even looks like. You know, they all look the same. And let's have Keir Starmer telling us what he's going to do to all these people, which of course he's not doing.
For the very first time, migrants arriving via small boat will be detained and returned to France in short order. In exchange for every return, a different individual will be allowed to come here via a safe route, controlled and legal. subject to strict security checks, and only open to those who have not tried to enter the UK illegally. This will show others trying to make the same journey that it will be in vain, and that jobs they've been promised in the UK will no longer exist because of the nationwide crackdown we're delivering on illegal working, which is on a completely unprecedented scale.
It's on a completely unprecedented scale. This bloke came in on Saturday and he's now in a hotel in Heathrow. How is that a crackdown in any way, shape or form? He's talking absolute, I'm sorry, cobblers.
Where is this nationwide crackdown?
There is no nationwide crackdown. It's total lies. Keir Starmer's a liar. I say it every day. They don't like it in Downing Street. I don't care. Prove to me that he said something that's actually true.
So do you think asylum seekers are more likely to see this? Look at this guy.
Yeah.
Are more likely to see this nonsense?
Yeah.
In fact, I think this is the man we're talking about.
It is,
this nonsense from Keir Starmer, or are they more likely to look at people's TikTok, other asylum seekers telling them how to get here?
Well,
and where to go,
as we
which country?
speak, there will be 107 people clambering onto a dinghy and then clambering onto another dinghy. People describe it as rush hour for dinghies at this time in the morning, around about 7 a.m. Off the coast of Calais, because one dinghy after another comes along. They all run out into the... We saw that terrible picture of them all marauding, running towards the dinghies in the shallows, right? They're all young men, they're all scumbags, they're rapists, they're sexual assaulters, they hate women. We don't want them here. You're right? We should be stopping them as soon as they come anywhere near British waters and, frankly, blasting them out of the water. You know, sink the bloody things.
Absolutely.
Right?
And when you've got 107 per crossing, I don't know how many crossings you can do in a day, but I think we're going to start topping 1,000 in a day.
Well, they're going to be 500 or 1,000. I mean, I think we had a couple of days a few months ago where we had more than 1,000 in one day.
Yeah.
That will happen.
Recently, last week, there was 800, 900. It was at those levels in the fine weather.
How dare these people think they can come to my country and live off the land and live off the taxpayer and live off the people like you and I who pay our taxes? You know, sod them. Right? Just don't come. And, you know, if it needs to be some drastic action that needs to be taken, that's what we need to do now, because we've had enough. Literally had enough.
I just think that the country can't take anymore. I think we're actually breaking at the seams, you know, splitting at the seams.
Yeah.
And the pressure on public services is just completely unsustainable.
And people like this complete and utter prat who was on Radio 4, you know, this Dr. Chris Candia, you know, let's have justice for the refugees. No. Why don't you put them up in your house, mate, and see how you feel when they start molesting your children, right?
Well, and that's why I object to the King telling us how, you know, how to open our arms and welcome refugees, and the Pope telling us to open our arms and welcome immigrants into our communities.
Play with your toys.
Because play with your toys. None of these people are touched by it. They're not affected by it at all, Mike. They're not affected by this happening in their towns and cities around them, and that is what people in the UK are seeing.
Right. Don't worry, though, because Keir Starmer's got a plan. Apparently he's going to meet with Vladimir Zelensky today in Downing Street. So they're going to have a few man hugs, you know, two small little blokes, you know, hugging each other.
Tiny little blokes.
And trying to solve the problems of the world.
Sheer self-indulgence.
I know.
The big, important meeting, so the big, important Ukraine-Russia meeting is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Zelensky and Starmer meeting
Zelensky's
today.
NFI, isn't he, in terms of Alaska? He's not been asked.
Exactly.
Right.
But Starmer, he is just doing that as a kind of... He likes meeting up with Macron. He likes feeling... And Zelensky. He likes doing the...
Likes feeling Zelensky.
He does.
How do you mean
He
that?
loves the bro hugs and the almost kisses on the front of Downing Street and
give
all
him
of
another
that.
couple of billion with money we don't have.
Well, he might know the Ukrainian
Christ.
male model.
Can somebody help me? I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. There's no air conditioning here either, so I'm going to get really worked up by the time we get to 10 o'clock. At 6:48, Emma Wolf is here. Let's do this. Great show as usual. Just a quick question regarding this TikTok migrant, says Phil. What's he doing with all the monetisation he's making from TikTok? Why aren't we using that to pay for his accommodation? Well, that's a very good question. Louise from Ipswich says, Starmer and Macron are just posturing and look absurd. If Trump and Putin agree a functioning ceasefire, Zelensky and everyone else will do as they're told. Yeah, absolutely right. And lots of you getting in touch about the NHS scenario. I gave up with the NHS a long time ago, says Rachel in the Cotswolds. I'm now private. However, it totally frustrates me that now the waiting time to see a consultant privately has gone up to over 3 weeks. Why? Because the NHS is flooding the private system with patients, which I've seen with my own eyes. Interestingly, I never got a discount on my premium for the lack of service and higher waiting times. That's right. The NHS is now paying the private sector to take over the kind of backlog of people that they can't deal with because they're so bloody useless.
You couldn't make it up. So as we pour more and more billions into the NHS, this bottomless pit, this gaping maw, you just pour the billions in.
I mean, if the NHS was a horse, you'd shoot it, wouldn't you? Basically, you'd go, sorry, mate, yeah, it's all over.
Well, if it was a private business, you'd shut it down.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the weather forecasters. Every day I say to myself, how can weather forecasters get it so
Do you know, yesterday,
wrong?
when the heavens opened, right, I came back upstairs, we were filming Plank of the Week, came back upstairs, and Ricky, who sits outside, he's the sort of head of the content that we all do here, and he showed me the the BBC app. And the BBC app just was sun, 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 sun. And literally look out the window, and the heavens had opened. There was torrential rain. It wasn't even on the app.
It was a thunder. There was massive thunder and lightning for a good hour.
Yeah.
That must have been somewhere,
rain.
and I'm no meteorologist, but that must have been somewhere in the heavens, on the map.
You'd seen it coming.
Like somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, also, I'd seen it coming because the sky suddenly went really grey, and really dark.
I went home after the show yesterday, and when I woke up from my little nap, there was no sun.
No.
And I thought, looks like it's going to rain.
Yeah.
And this is very sort of heavy, you know...
But when weather forecasters have their, like, you know, performance review, don't people say to them, well, you're consistently getting it wrong? You're consistently saying it's raining and you look outside and it's sunny, or the other way around.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it all works.
The easiest job in the world being a meteorologist, because nobody cares if you get it wrong.
Well, no, but try and get it right. Like, you've got all the data.
Nice.
They've got their really, really expensive equipment. I believe they have stuff in space as well.
Yeah.
They have a lot of tech, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but it is the BBC, let's face it. Right, listen, 6:51, Emma Wolf and I here. If I don't spontaneously combust in the next break, I'll see you after that.
How realistic do you think a ceasefire is this week?
There's a very good chance that we'll have a settlement, an agreement of some kind.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.
What are you looking for here?
An end. A real end.
Well, all of a sudden he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. I am very disappointed with President Putin. He'll talk so beautifully and then he'll bomb people at night.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yeah. Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6:53. It is A-level day today, by the way, in case everybody's wondering. One of my children is waiting for his A-level results, but he's so worried about them, he's gone to America. So, I mean, he'll be getting them later on. I guess we'll find out exactly how he's done.
But Mike, I know we say
this...
this...
for a lot of parents, it's quite a stressful day, actually.
Yeah, and I know we say this every year, but honestly, with the perspective of age, you won't even barely... I know it matters for unis and stuff, but A, universities are really desperately looking for students, and B, it won't matter quite so much as it feels like it does right now.
No, that's true.
You know, I can barely remember where I got my A-levels and things worked out-ish okay.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ways to recover if it hasn't... if you haven't done as well as you thought you were going to do, right? Don't listen to the teachers. Honestly, don't. Let's have a look at page 2 of The Sun. Donald Trump's US administration's attacked Britain for serious restrictions on free speech over the past year. And, of course, they've got a picture of Lucy Connolly, who's still in prison, by the way. I thought she was going to get out in August because they said she would.
But they're frightened of the reaction, aren't they?
They're frightened of the reaction. They're hoping it will all go away. I mean, this is typical Starmer administration nonsense, right? His entire kind of raison d'etre and modus operandi is to try and ignore something and hope that it goes away.
Yeah.
But it doesn't go away.
It doesn't.
Lucy Connolly is a symbol of Keir Starmer's failure to actually protect the British people from scumbags coming to this country and killing people.
Of course.
That's the problem.
Wild two-tier policing,
Yeah.
completely disproportionate, crazy decisions,
Yeah.
especially when we've got prisons that are, people being released onto the
Did you
street.
see that story the other day?
Dangerous
26,000 people have been released from prison under Keir Starmer's reign since last year.
And we wonder
why
crime is so rife. Oh,
I
but it's
know.
not. No, crime's going down, remember?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
And they can, what I meant about, them policing these hurty tweets,
Yeah.
they can follow up Lucy Connolly. They can go and police her and arrest her and put her in prison, but they can't go and find this TikTok asylum seeker who is taking the absolute mickey in this country.
I know.
But
and
this
it's
is
continuing to break the law by just being here.
Openly flouting the law. Yeah, but coming here was an illegal act.
Yeah.
But this is really, really embarrassing.
But this is really embarrassing. The State Department, this is the US State Department, says that attempts to chill speech online in the wake of last summer's Southport attack, as well as the Online Safety Act that polices content on the internet. They say significant human rights issues included credible reports of serious restrictions on freedom of expression, including enforcement of or threat of criminal or civil laws in order to limit expression, and crimes, violence or threats of violence motivated by anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like North Korea.
This is America saying censorship of ordinary Britons was increasingly routine, often targeted at political speech.
Yeah.
So we don't have free speech in this country anymore.
And to be honest, I always knew that we didn't have it because I lived in America and where they do have proper free speech.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot worse, even under Starmer, because Starmer is a bully. He's a horrible, ghastly individual who would like to curtail your freedom and my freedom, doesn't like us being critical of him. They get really, really sniffy at Downing Street when they find out that I've given them a hard time. They don't like it.
No.
I couldn't care less. Get lost.
But he's the worst kind of bully, Mike, because he's not just a bully, he's a coward. He's a coward. He's a dishonest coward and a bully.
Yeah.
And,
it really is.
What about this special relationship? Look, this is America just telling the truth about the UK.
Well, the special relationship, David Lammy takes J.D. Vance fishing, hasn't got a licence,
Hasn't got a licence.
Ends up causing them to be fined, both of them, $2.5 grand each, right? Doesn't even catch any fish. What a complete
Absolutely
plonker.
pathetic.
Carping. I don't know if we've got time. We've got time for Chris Philp, who's been out in France watching what's going on before these scumbags get on boats. Have a look.
So what we can see here is a large group of illegal migrants being shepherded onto a public bus. French police, as you can see, are present and they are heading towards embarkation points where illegal crossings of the channel will happen very shortly. These people are going to probably be at a hotel somewhere near you soon. This is a symptom of the complete inactivity by French law enforcement, and it's a symptom of the Labour government's total loss of border control. It's happening right now, right behind me.
I mean, that tells you everything you need to know. It's a lawless situation. Nobody in France cares. They just keep sending them off to us. We just keep giving them, hundreds of thousands of pounds, millions of pounds, 770 million pounds I think we've given them. They've done square root of a sweet FA to stop them coming.
And there's no incentive for them to do anything.
No.
I mean, as you say, push the problem away.
They don't want
They're still getting their monies.
Yeah.
What did your caller say? He's tapped him up for the best part of £1 billion. Absolutely brilliant.
And
I
they're
couldn't
actually
put it better
shipping
myself.
them on those buses to the coast so they can get on these 107-man dinghies.
And then we have to escort them into our country, into safe waters,
welcome them to Heathrow Airport, right?
Whereas they should be going from the boat straight into prison and then back to the airport.
Yeah,
simple.
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know, cages.
I know,
Sorry,
cages.
I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't say that. That's not
you should.
nice.
Put them in
That's not
cages.
kind
Put them in prison. That's where they belong. They're criminals, right? And if they're not criminals now, they will be soon because they're going to commit crime within about sort of 5 days of being here.
And Mike, I know I've said this before, but what would happen if you or I tried to get into the US without the relevant documents? If we haven't filled out our visa on the plane, if we didn't have a passport?
They'd send you straight back.
Do you think they would let us stay there in a lovely hotel for months on end?
It happened to friends of mine who were legally allowed to go into America, but because they didn't have the right papers, they were detained, they were put in a room until they could get on a plane back. and that was it. And within 4 hours, back on a plane, back to London.
And it is that
simple.
simple.
Sort yourself out.
It is that simple because it's not a legal route to enter the country.
Exactly. Emma, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Emma Wolf will be back, I'm sure, over the course of the next couple of weeks. We will be talking to you some more about what on earth is going on in this country, which is quickly going to hell in a handcart. See you after the news.
I can announce this government will begin the biggest sustained increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. We will deliver our commitment to spend 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we will bring it forward so we reach that level in 2027.
The answer from European capitals has been as resounding as it is clear. We are in an era of rearmament to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security.
On Saturday, we also agreed a new £2.2 billion loan for Ukraine, backed not by the British taxpayer, but by the profits from frozen Russian assets. It is my pleasure to bring from His Majesty the King a letter. He sends his best wishes and his regards, of course, but he also asked me to bear this letter and bring it to you. So can I present the letter from the King to you?
Thank you very much. Am I supposed to read it right now?
Yeah, please do.
I will do.
I've got to tell him what your reaction is, so I need to know. I need to know.
He is a great gentleman. A great, great gentleman. He said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time, and he better not be right. Well, I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin. We've given them much more than Europe, and Europe should have given more than us because, as you know, that's right there. That's the border.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media.
You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning and welcome to Morning Glory, 3 minutes past 7. Bev, I think, sums up everything that we've got this morning. Mike, you are feisty this morning. This is exactly how we feel every single day at the moment. Our house is now up for sale and we're thinking of moving abroad. That's just what people are doing. You know, people are sick to the back teeth of these bloody scumbags coming into this country, taking us for granted, taking money from the public purse, you know, billions and billions and billions of pounds every single day, staying in hotels, getting 3 meals a day, getting taken on sort of journeys across the land to go and watch football matches, to go to museums, to go and sort of, you know, molest a few teenagers. You know, this is what they do. These are people coming from Afghanistan, I can't even say it, a crappy country that is full of people who have so backward views that they're not welcome in this country. Places like Sudan, where they can't stop killing each other. Places like Eritrea, where they like chopping each other's arms off. Rwanda, you know, where they used to have a sort of genocide going on. They've all come here and they're all living high on the hog in Britain, paid for by the public purse. We're sick of it. We've had enough. I don't want to pay for them anymore. I don't want them to be here. I don't want them any longer contributing to some kind of that absolute crappy BS-style life where we're supposed to be very happy that we've got multiculturalism. Well, multiculturalism is an absolute joke, and it hasn't worked, and we are now, I'm afraid, in the grip of what can only be described as social collapse, right? We've got people walking around stealing things off the street. We've got people walking around taking your phone, taking your watch, hitting people over the head, raping women, molesting our children, molesting our young daughters and sisters and wives. And, you know, we've had enough. I've had enough. I don't know what's happened to me this morning. I've reached the point now where I've just like the point of no return. I don't care. I don't care what happens to these people. Put them all down a mine shaft for all I care. And, you know, Lucy Connolly's coming out apparently at the end of this month. That will be, I'm sure, another cultural touch point for us. But it's time, really, for Keir Starmer and for this government to accept the fact that they have driven this country into the sea, right? 50,000 people have come here since he was Prime Minister, right? And they're all still coming. They're coming on boats now, 100 at a time. These are not small boats anymore. In fact, Cooper might call them small boats. They're not small boats. They're big bloody boats. And they're full of scumbags coming here to rape this country. And I've had enough, quite frankly. Let's talk about some breaking news. GDP figures show economic growth has slowed. It only grew by 0.3% between April and June, and apparently the blame for that is higher business costs. Oh, I wonder why. Business costs have gone up. Oh, let's see. Could it be that, you know, international things around tariffs? No, it's Rachel Reeves. Rachel Reeves put national insurance contributions up. She put the minimum wage up. That's why business costs have gone up. And now Keir Starmer, all he can think of doing is meeting with that dwarf Vladimir Zelensky from Ukraine, and they're going to have a meeting this afternoon in Downing Street. Well, that's great, isn't it? It's not going to help us at all. 0344 499 1000. This is the home of common sense. Let's get it on. I don't know. I've just. You know what? Sometimes you wake up and you just go, I've just had enough. I'm not interested anymore in anything. You've got the TikTok migrant, you know, who's come in on Saturday after the clampdown. Yeah, we're going to clamp everything down. We're going to start arresting people, detaining them, and then we're going to deport them. This bloke came in on Saturday. By Sunday, he was ensconced in a room with two single beds and a double bed in a hotel, a Crown Plaza hotel, mind you, which is rather nice, near Heathrow. And he's sending out TikTok videos telling everybody this is how you do it. And there he is. You know, on one of these boats, which is now carrying 100... This is like the biggest travel company in the world now, right? There's none of these people, none of them are dying, they're not drowning, they're just getting on a boat that's so robust that it can get across the channel, no problem at all. And then they arrive here, and it's happy days. You know, glorious, isn't it? You get a job working with Deliveroo. You know, if you did unfortunately get caught, you know, working illegally, you get fined. They just fined somebody 26 quid. Right, which is actually less than the average order on Deliveroo. £26 he got fined because he apparently doesn't have any money. We are the laughing stock of the world, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry to say it, but we are. This one from Sarah in Birmingham. I hope that you're well. I thought I'd give you some good news and big up the pharmacists of the UK. I was in need of medical advice yesterday following several insect bites which turned nasty. Do I fill in a form online and see if I can get it past the receptionist at the doctor? Do I physically go to the doctor like in the good old days and wait to be seen? Ha ha! Don't be silly. Do I call 111? No. I take myself down to the chemist, ask to see the pharmacist, and within 15 minutes I had a consultation and I've been prescribed a course of antibiotics and felt looked after. So when it comes to striking doctors, I sack them all, and if anyone is due a pay rise, in my opinion, it's the pharmacists. They've been plugging a gap for these bloody doctors for years. Have a good day. Sarah, I'm pleased to say that you got yourself sorted out, the pharmacist. And of course, what we've found out this week as well is that pharmacists are now the victims of a massive wave of shoplifting. You know, more scumbags who come into the pharmacy and don't want to pay for anything and just scoop stuff off the shelves and run out with it. You know, that's the world we now live in. You know, if you pay for anything, you're a mug. If you pay tax, you're a mug. If you actually do anything that's good for this country, you're an idiot, right? Because everybody else is taking the mickey out of it, and everybody else is making fun of you and looking at you and going, what are you doing that for? You pay road tax, you're an idiot. You get car insurance, you're a complete and utter twit, right? Because nobody is doing it. All of these scumbags are coming into the country and ripping the arse out of it and making out that we should be paying for it. And we're all being stupid by doing so. And I'm sick to death of it. Let's talk to Sunil Sharma, political commentator, host of the Rational Voices with Sunil podcast. Sunil, I'm in a bad mood today, mate. I can't help it. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, because it's time that we admitted the truth. We are being taken for a very long ride by these absolute scumbags coming to this country and ripping us all off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the boat situation is crazy. I know yesterday was a record where we had a boat that carried 107 people across the channel, as opposed from 95 or whatever it was before the record. And I think exactly what you said, these are not small boats anymore. These are not small, unsafe boats. These are large boats carrying more than 100 people in a boat. And it's just crazy, and it's scary, because where do these people go? You've got some people in this country that are constantly worse off, younger people, elderly people. Everyone is in this country worse off on a day-to-day basis. How on earth can we accommodate more and more people? How on earth can we accommodate people who are coming here illegally? People with completely different values, completely different beliefs. It is scary.
But also, can we also get away from this ludicrous, sort of fake narrative the government's trying to put out, that they're clamping down on these people? Last Friday we were told by Yvette Cooper and Keir Starmer, anybody that comes to this country illegally is going to be detained and they're going to be deported. Well, clearly that's not happened, because this guy, the TikTok migrant, is in the sun today again, living high on the hog in a very nice hotel, the Crown Plaza near Heathrow. He came in on Saturday, and by Sunday afternoon he'd been through Manston, he'd been processed, and he was in a hotel in London.
I mean, 100%. And when I first saw that video, it makes you so angry and frustrated. But in a way, I'm really glad that video's out, because I think this sums up the reality for a lot of the people coming into this country illegally. And there'll be some people who say that the numbers aren't actually that much in terms of the whole proportion. That's not the case. That's not the case, and B, that's not the issue. If you're allowing people to come to this country illegally, if you're allowing people to come in here, essentially not abide by the law, what does that say for the rest of society? What does it say to other people? It is absolutely frightening. The numbers are not decreasing, and I don't think they will decrease when you've got a really soft, government.
No, listen, you can't blame them in a way. I mean, I hate all of them, and I detest the fact that they're coming here from countries which wouldn't know a democracy or a woman if they fell over one, right? But the point is that they're allowed to come here, they're enabled to come here, nobody's stopping them, so you can't really blame them for doing it.
No, I mean, they're taking advantage of the situation. I think it's, like I said, I think these are not exactly the nice people. They can't be trusted, but at the same time, there is literally no repercussions to what they're doing. They are getting rewarded for doing something illegally. They should be seen as criminals. If you come to this country illegally, you're doing an illegal act. You're a criminal.
Straight, arrive in Dover, go straight into prison. That's what I would do. Right?
Yeah, go straight to prison. Look, I know the Rwanda deal was something that a lot of people frowned upon, but the idea of deporting these people out of the country, if you're not sure where they came from, which is, I think, another new ludicrous lie. I think most of the time you can actually tell where these people come from, but it's not Britain's responsibility for dealing with the conflicts of the world. And it's really ironic. The only people that come to this country are men between 19 and 40 years old. There's no women on these boats. There's no children on these boats. So, when you hear about the humanitarian reasons from people, the TikTok migrant clearly shows the reality of the kind of profile of people coming into this country. It's scary, it's wrong. And I feel really sad and annoyed, because what does this say for the rest of the country when,
Well, this country has basically become a dumping ground for the third world. We've got people living here who go to the toilet in the street, right? Because they think that's what you do. I'm sorry, that is not a civilised society. We have become an uncivilised society as a result of the influx and the integration of these scumbags who have come here from other places.
Good, definitely. And you look at the profile of people coming, and you look at the profile of people leaving. The UK, when it comes to the whole world now, is the #1 place for millionaires leaving. It is overtaking countries like China. China has more than 10 times the population of the UK, and the UK has beaten them in terms of the amount of people leaving this country, or millionaires leaving this country. So you've got people who create businesses, you've got people who create wealth who are leaving this country, and you've got people like this who create absolutely nothing for the British society apart from pain. They're coming into this country. So it is an absolute, I'm not advocating for what happened last summer in terms of the riots. And of course, I don't want to see that happen again. But there are a lot of people in Britain who must be so angry when they see what this man has done when it comes to on TikTok and to the realities of what is going on with these small boats. These are not humanitarian cases. These are not people who are in deep trouble. Like I said, if that was the case, where are the women? Where are the children? Why is it only men between 19 and 40 coming into this country?
Yeah. Exactly. Where are all the women and children, you know? And we've seen over the course of the past year loads and loads of hotels, particularly the one in Epping, the Bell Hotel, where, by the way, there's been another migrant who's been charged with an offence, which I'll bring you later. You know, they used to have women and children and families living there. Now it's just simple single men, young men, who wander around the town, molesting young women, you know, catcalling, whistling at them, you know, making their lives a misery, pretending that they are, for all intents and purposes, you know, citizens of this nation. They're not. They're criminals. They're scumbags. They shouldn't be here. We should be rounding them up and putting them in a bloody cage, for all I care.
Well, but the thing is, I think what, you know, people will may say, like, what we're saying isn't right or racist or whatever. The reality is, when you bring people from a different demographic and you bring them in such high, vast numbers and you bring them all together, they have no reason or no understanding of how to adapt to British values and British customs. This may be perfectly normal for where they come from. So when they come here, they have no idea. There's no law, there's no restrictions, there's no nothing for them to sit there and actually adapt to British society and culture. And the other point is, the other argument, you know, many people will say about immigration and, you know, we need to be multicultural and all this sort of nonsense. Well, let's just say that is a key component that is important. Well, what does it say about legal migration? What does it say for people who come to this country legally? Like, how is it fair?
Yeah, listen, I've got good friends who've come to this country and who work for a living and who've started up businesses and who pay tax and they do all the right things and have never broken the law in their lives. And they're generally people from Eastern Europe, people who have come here to make a living and to make a new life. Not these other people who have come basically to take, put their hands out and be given free food, free lodging, you know, free everything. It's not, you know, it's not on. We can't do it anymore. Listen, Sunil, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Sunil Sharma, political commentator, host of the Rational Voices with Sunil. We need some rational voices, right? Mike, the way you are feeling right now, says Brian in Worthing, is how millions and millions of people are feeling. Every day we get up to a country that is slowly going down the toilet. We shouldn't have to feel like this. To say people are angry is an understatement. These people, including the government, are taking the pee. We've had enough. Absolutely right, Brian. Thank you very much indeed for letting us know. Mike, I 100% agree with everything you say, says Lindsay in Sussex. It's so frustrating to see what's happening. Why is Starmer allowed to get away with it? Thank you for keeping us sane. Just look after yourself. You sound like you need some TLC. Listen, I'll be fine. Don't worry about me. I just need to occasionally vent because, you know, it's very funny. We love to come in here and have a laugh, and we will have a laugh later on the show. But sometimes you just have to say it as it is, right? Vladimir Zelensky's coming to London to meet Starmer in Downing Street today. I could not care less. I honestly couldn't care less. Starmer needs to get out and about. He needs to go to Epping. He needs to talk to the good people of Epping to find out why they don't like the fact that their children are being molested by scumbags who have come to this country completely and utterly without any fear or favour, because they think they can take us all for a very long ride. Well, we've had enough. GDP figures also show that Rachel Reeves and her entire coterie of idiots at the Treasury have taken us down the toilet. The GDP figures show that we've only grown by 0.3% between April and June, and apparently higher business costs are to blame. Really? Well, knock me over with a feather. 17 minutes past 7.
and it's not just domestic animals, it's wild animals as well. So people are using, you know, air rifles, of course, and we've got this 30% increase in this report today, and that's something that's really a big problem for cat owners and a real worry and concern for them. We have people using high-powered catapults as well, where there's no regulation and control on their sale, you know, firing lead shot or steel bolts and killing pheasants and killing swans and attacking, you know, deer and other animals. And we've had reports of social media groups being set up by young people in particular to share some of the most horrible images of this cruelty.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 20 minutes past 7. I feel your pain, I'm fully with you, says Mark in Coventry. Yeah, thanks, Mark, I appreciate that. I don't know, so suddenly you just sometimes are taken over by feelings of absolute and utter hopelessness and just general bile that you feel for this government, because they are ruining this country and they're ruining on several different levels, right? Not only are they allowing so many people to come into this country unabated, not only are they lying to us about what they're doing with them, not only are they not dealing with that situation properly, they're claiming that, of course, you know, we're locking people up, we're detaining them, and then we're going to deport them. They're not doing any of that. Not one person has been deported since they made the announcement last week that they were going to do it, right? So they've lied to us again, I'm afraid. Yvette Cooper, Keir Starmer, David Lammy, all completely and utterly complicit in misleading this British great country of ours, right? We're going to talk to Andrew Griffith now, MP and Shadow Business Secretary, Business and Trade Secretary, I should say. Jamie Jenkins is going to join us as well. GDP figures this morning, breaking news, show economic growth has slowed. It only grew by 0.3% between April to June, and it's being blamed on higher business costs. Higher business costs, by the way, which were imposed upon business by the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Thieves, right? It also turns out the inheritance tax proposals, which means that they're going to try and take even more of your money if you manage to save up over the course of your lifetime so that you can leave your children some kind of legacy. Oh, no, you can't be doing that. They'll be taking some of that money as well. They're going to make the UK a dangerous place for people to be wealthy in. So everybody who's got any money is just going to get the hell out. And then they won't even collect any tax, the stupid complete plonkers. Also, City Accountancy giant PricewaterhouseCoopers League Table of Shame for working from home staff who rarely visit the office say basically you've got to crack down on remote working. It doesn't work. I've been saying this for years, and all you bozos used to ring in and go, oh, I really like working from home. I'm much more productive, you know, when I work from home. No, you're not. You're just not. Simple. Let's talk to Andrew Griffith. Very good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning, Mike.
I'm a bit grumpy this morning, Andrew, because I've suddenly woken up and realised that this country is fast deteriorating and going down the toilet thanks to this bloody useless government. What can we do about it?
Well, they are going in the wrong direction, and we will keep calling that out in the hope that somebody somewhere in the ridiculous enclave of Whitehall that's coming up with these mad ideas listens to us. We've seen today again the economic figures show that growth is slowing. Now that should surprise nobody except our Chancellor. You can't tax your way to growth. What it means is that cost of living is growing 10 times faster than the rate of economic growth. We are all getting poorer, Mike, and what we hear is she's going to just come back with more and more taxes. That is completely the wrong way to go. This government should be looking to cut spending. It's the only way now to reboot our economy and get out of this doom loop that she's put us into.
Yeah, but we haven't got any money to spend, have we? I mean, all they're doing is asking us to contribute ever more money. I mean, I said in the last hour, you know, I feel like a mug for paying tax. I feel like a lot of people say to me, I feel stupid for just, you know, paying for my groceries. I don't shoplift. I don't actually steal. I don't actually, you know, try and rip off the tax man. I pay what I owe. But I'm in a minority. I feel like an idiot.
It's the worst thing about socialism, right? It tries to reduce everybody to being dependent on the state. So don't save, don't try and own your own home, don't try and do the best for your children. Don't try and build up an inheritance, because socialist governments, and this is a very, very socialist government, will try and take all of those things away and make you another client of the state. And as you say, people are reaching breaking point in terms of running the economy. You can't tax your way to growth. No government has ever done that. The growth rate today is falling. Cost of living is rising and unemployment's rising. We've got this huge national debt. It is a moment in time when we need a complete reboot. We need a fresh look at public spending, and just to throw out a lot of weight overboard, because the balloon is not going to clear the mountains.
I mean, people say to me all the time, Andrew, and I'm sorry to say this to you, that it's all your fault. You know, you screwed things up to such an extent that you let these idiots get into power. And now look where we are. You know, and I realise that, you know, I've said this to you before, and there's only so many times, and I'm not asking for you to apologise, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, if it hadn't been for you as a party being, you know, sort of, I guess, I don't know, running out of road, these idiots wouldn't be in charge. And look what they're doing to the country. They're literally ruining it before our very eyes.
And look, I'm ashamed of a lot of what are things people in my party, people who were in cabinet at the time, did. I was in business for 27 years. I came into Parliament, into public life, because I share all of the emotions you're saying. You know, we need some better leadership in this country.
Yeah.
Now, I think the Conservative Party is under new management. A lot of things that happened in the past should never have happened, will never happen again. And look at the state we're in. So I don't blame people for voting for different parties at the last election. The sad fact is that supermajority has given Labour carte blanche to absolutely devastate our country. You know, we've got a massive brain drain. All the best and brightest people are looking to leave at a far higher rate than they're being replaced by people coming in with small boats. You know, another burden on the economy.
They're not very small anymore. You're getting 107 people on them now.
Yeah, well, it's the only thing growing, I'm afraid, in today's economy. The only thing growing is the number of small boat arrivals under this government. And it's a serious point. I mean, you know, this is a great country. I'm very optimistic about the future of this country, but I promise you this government is taking us in the wrong direction. We've got to cut spending. The quicker they wake up to that fact, the less long-term damage will be done.
Can we not recall Parliament as well? Because it seems to me there's an awfully long wait until we see you guys back in the House of Commons. It'll be sometime in the middle of sort of September for a couple of weeks, and then you'll all be off again. This is it's an emergency going on right now with these people invading our country. Can we not force Keir Starmer to recall Parliament?
There's certainly a slow-mo crisis going on in the economy. If you look at how they're building up national debt, they are literally borrowing to pay the interest on the borrowings. That is how states in the long term go bankrupt. But remember, Mike, even when Parliament's there, these bozos don't listen to it, right? I mean, we've warned them. We told them precisely what would happen. If you put a 25 billion tax on jobs, you would have fewer jobs, you would have more unemployment. That's precisely what has happened. The retailers are warning about 6% food inflation by Christmas because they're having to pass on the costs of those tax rises in the price of the weekly shop. We've warned them, Parliament's warned them. Unfortunately, this government does not listen to a word anybody other than their backbenchers and the trade unions say.
I know, it's absolutely shambolic. It's a shambles, and it's an absolute disgrace. Andrew, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Andrew Griffith there, Shadow Business and Trade Secretary. Howard in Suffolk says, every August we have the nights drawing in. People don't notice days start to get shorter after the 21st of June. I guess because of the bright lights and usually sunny days. Also, it's been mentioned before that it does get dark faster in autumn, unlike those slow sunsets in midsummer. I woke up actually the other night. It was about 2 nights ago, I think, because I hadn't closed the curtains, had the window open, and the moon was so bright that it actually woke me up. It was like a sort of, you know, spotlight coming out of the sky. It was amazing. Absolutely incredible. Last night, not so much. Mike, on Chris Philp's video, it shows migrants getting on the bus with luggage, says June. When they get on the boat, there's no luggage. Do we pay for their luggage to be transferred to the UK? It's unbelievable. You know, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. But if we do, that is absolutely awful and shocking, isn't it? Anne is in Gwynedd. Hello, Anne.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I've enjoyed listening to you this morning.
Oh, man, I'm not happy this morning. I don't know what's come over me. But anyway, what can you tell me, Anne?
My husband had an appointment to go to the hospital. Yes. He had, last October, he went for I've forgotten. Anyway, he went and he had an appointment 2 weeks ago. He had 1 letter and 3 emails. Now, I was concerned, so I went with him. And it's 30 miles to get to the hospital.
30 miles, right?
Right, that's to get there. It took half an hour to find a parking space, but we eventually got in. And fair play, we didn't have to wait long. Do you know how long the appointment was?
I don't know, 2 minutes?
3.
3 minutes.
And all it was to read out that the tests he had in October were clear. Now, that letter could have been sent to our doctor, who, our surgery is brilliant. I have no faults, no complaints whatsoever.
Right.
And the doctor there was embarrassed. There was a doctor, a nurse, and a trainee for less than 5 minutes.
And why did you have to? Why did they insist that you turn up for that?
Well, we didn't know, because the tests were done last October,
Right.
and he'd waited 14 months for that.
That's ridiculous.
That
isn't it?
appointment, and we thought there might be something wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you do, don't you?
But you didn't know. But you were asked to go and show up and see the doctor, only to then, when you got there, see him reading out something from a sheet of paper that he could have just sent to you in a letter.
And
It's
he
crazy,
could
isn't it?
have sent that. It is. It's not. But it just proves that Starmer is lying again.
It's just insane, isn't it? And listen, appreciate your call. Thank you very much indeed. Loads of you getting in touch about the NHS because, of course, we found out this morning, if you've only just joined us, that, again, we've been right all along. It turns out that the Nuffield Trust, which is a very, very well-respected organisation, has discovered that the NHS has misled the public about why the waiting lists have fallen. I've been saying this for months and months and months, and it's all an absolute crock of nonsense, right? It turns out that the Nuffield Trust said they found 245,000 appointments were removed every single month, right, from the waiting lists because patients have either died, had treatment elsewhere, or moved abroad. And instead of actually admitting that, they've made out that this is some kind of triumph for Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer and the NHS, which it clearly isn't. It's sleight of hand, it's dishonest, and I'm afraid it's more lies from the Downing Street machine, which is getting very good at lying. Let's talk to Jamie Jenkins, independent statistician, our favourite statistician, actually. Jamie, good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. You've always got your finger on the pulse of everything, haven't you? I think you should be running the country.
Well, I mean, I wish I could run the country, but not because I want, the power and the, self-aggrandisement. I just want them to stop lying to us. Stop telling us, that the sun is shining when it's dark. Stop, telling us that, we're going to arrest migrants when they're not going to arrest them. They got a guy comes in on Saturday. By Sunday, he's in a hotel in Heathrow. They haven't stopped anybody.
No, and Lisa Nanya, I heard the clip on your show last week, Mike. She was on Sky News, I think, telling us how our energy bills have fallen as well, which is an outright lie. Because if you compare the quarter before Labour came in and every quarter since, energy prices that you're all paying is higher. So they're blatantly going out and lying across the area. The economic figures this morning, Mike, so you've just been touching on those, haven't they? So economic growth's halved, so it's 0.3%, so pretty much no growth in the second quarter of the year. Now, that's more than half from 0.7% in the first quarter of the year. And we did see covers April to June, so April and May were pretty bouncy, a little bit negative. June's bounced back a little bit, but very little growth in the economy, Mike. And one of the big factors in this is actually business investments. That's fallen quite sharply. And when you put taxes up on businesses, the minimum wage has gone up. They've got to look to cover those costs somewhere. So giving the government more money in tax means they're investing less in the business, which will probably have a longer term effect, Mike, because that will kick in future months.
Well, they're talking about basically, higher business costs, as if it's not related to what their policy is, right? And suddenly the economy's not doing very well because higher business costs are affecting it. Well, yes, the higher business costs are because you put the bleeding business costs up.
Yeah, and basically, if you look at what the consequences of these business costs are, Mike, so we had the labour market figures out a couple of days ago. So those were the numbers I used to work on when I was at the ONS many, many years ago as well. And we've seen 157,000 fewer people on the payroll than what we had.
That's a big number, isn't it?
It is a big number. And then you can break that down into a little bit more detail, Mike. So 108,000 fall in hospitality. So that's pretty much going to be where the things are biting. People aren't going out as much because of these increased taxes. They're laying off people in hospitality. But
yeah, absolutely. I think Jamie's just frozen there. We'll try and get you back. Yeah, no, we've lost him, sorry. In fact, I'm trying to get him back because I've got another couple of things to ask him about. Let's get a voice note from Jimmy.
Morning, Mike. It's Jimmy from Halifax. Been up since 5 o'clock, driving up the M1 back to Halifax. Now, these figures that have come out, 50,000 migrants in for the first year of Keir Starmer. The French are laughing. 50,000 in means there's 50,000 less in France. They're just laughing at us and taking all our money. Great show as normal. Keep up the good work.
Jimmy, thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, Jimmy, another hard-working bloke driving up the A1 or the M1, getting back to Halifax. You know, he's already been working for a couple of hours. It's only 7:30 in the morning. This is what the good people of this country do. I think we've got Jamie Jenkins back. Jamie, have we got you back?
Yeah, I think the government are trying to stop me telling you what's
probably,
going on.
yeah, no doubt, absolutely right. I wanted to ask you about another little fact check thing that you did yesterday, where you were, you know, because I'm sick to death of these lefties, right, telling me that, you know, Britain's never been better, the crime's never been lower. Nobody's really, you know, understanding that the country is in a much better shape than all of you kind of right-wing doom loopers are telling us, right? Because they're talking absolute cobblers. Sky News this week tried to debunk what Nigel Farage said about Afghan invaders, right? People who are coming to this country and committing sex crimes. They said Afghans are 3 times more likely than UK-born men to be convicted of sexual offences, not 22 times more likely, as Nigel Farage said. What did you find?
Yeah, so this is kind of one of those apple and pears comparisons, and Sky are not very renowned for doing fact checks, Mark. So it's very curious why they did this one. So what Nigel did was he quoted some figures that have been calculated looking at kind of Afghan nationals, and then you've got to divide by the population to work out kind of a crime rate. And it came out about 22 times. What Sky did, they took the number of crimes of sexual offences, and then they divided that by how many people from Afghanistan are in the population by country of birth. Now, the big problem you've got here, you know, the schoolboy area, Mike, is that over time, what you tend to find is that the number of people in the country, say by country of birth, and when you compare to nationality, it goes down because people become British nationals or UK nationals. So the thing is, because the police recorded crime data is on nationality, you have to divide that by nationality.
Right.
If you want to manipulate the figures to make it look lower than what it is, you pull out these country of birth figures. So it's completely robust not. It shouldn't be done that way, Mike. And they're kind of trying to make out that Farage is misleading the public, when in fact, the piece itself is Sky News and misleading the public.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think people need to know these things because it's quite a hot topic at the moment with obviously the small boat migrants coming over. So I would say, you know, my independent adjustment on this, and I've worked with the ONS on these things, Mike, is that the figure's probably a lot closer to Farage's 22 times than Sky News' 3 times.
Yeah, absolutely right. Great things to be pointed out. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins, an independent statistician, former person at the Office for National Statistics, of course, and that's why he knows what he's talking about. And that's why we get him on, because he can debunk all of this nonsense that comes out. I mean, GDP figures showing economic growth has slowed down this morning. It only grew by 0.3% between April and June. And guess what? The government is saying, oh, it's because business costs have gone up. Higher business costs mean that we've slowed the economy. Yeah, well, you put them up, you complete and utter morons. You put people's higher national insurance costs up. You put people's minimum wage costs up. You made it clear that people who run businesses are the enemy, right? And so now, obviously, business is suffering. You complete and utter numpties. Rodney! 7:37.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 7:39, very nearly 20 minutes to 8. We are here, of course, for the duration. Don't forget, by the way, that we are here for you as well as being here for ourselves. If you've got a story that's affected you or your family and you think we should know about it or investigate it further, you can email us. We've got a new email account called tips@talk.tv. That's tips@talk.tv. And if you've got a story for us, send it in to us and we can investigate. We'll get our team onto it. Here's one from Becky, who says, "Morning, Mike. I live in a seaside town in East Devon. We have no idea if any guest houses, HMOs or hotels are housing migrants. But walking around the town, it's clear that things have changed. I'm 36 weeks pregnant and was followed around a shop yesterday morning at a time when I feel most vulnerable. I was so angry about how unsafe I felt. Luckily, I managed to hide down the freezer aisle. We understand your anger." Becky is in Devon. Becky, thank you very much indeed. Carolyn Shoreham says, "Mike and Emma, great show as always. Funny how all these MPs are copying what Nigel Farage has been doing for years. Pity they weren't so inquisitive when they were in office. Also, I can't believe all this obvious lying when we can see with our own eyes that what useless Starmer and his incompetent cronies are saying is completely untrue. What an insult to the British people. Stop this madness." Well, you know, it's really, really difficult. People just understand that things have changed in the country. They know that people are shoplifting before their very eyes. They know that everything's going up in price. They know that they feel less secure in their home communities. They know that when they come to London, or if they live in London, they don't go around flashing their watch, or they don't go around getting their phone out. You know, it's clear that things have gone wrong. Right, we're going to talk now to James Lohman, a CEO of the Association of Convenience Stores, because we also know that things are disappearing at a rate of knots out of shops with people are not paying for things. And the government's advice, right, this just came out today, is don't put expensive items near the door because people will just run in and nick them. I mean, is that really policy now? You know, hide your expensive stuff, put it away, put it behind a lock and key. Shocking. James, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, mate.
Nice to talk to you. I mean, we've reached some point, haven't we, when this is the government advice, is, you know, if you've got anything that's worth a few quid, don't put it anywhere near a door because somebody might walk out with it.
Yeah, I mean, you talked earlier on about the business costs facing a lot of businesses, including our members, and you know, they need to sell things in their store. They're in a very competitive environment. They need to maximise their sales. There's clearly sensible placement in store. So you've got your eye line from the people working in the store to the expensive products and things like that. That's common anyway. That happens anyway.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of the government telling us how to merchandise our stores is doesn't sit particularly well.
No, I mean, people find it, I think, a bit unnerving when they walk into supermarkets now and they see things like steak being tagged with a sort of electronic tag so that it can't be stolen. And when they see things being put behind sort of lock and key, if you like, so that you have to actually ask somebody to get it. I mean, it's a terrible place to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we recorded 6.2 million incidents of shop theft last year, and that's just in convenience stores, and that's probably a massive underestimate. It's many times more than the official figures, but it's still a massive underestimate. And it's those high-value products that are going, and it's really important to be clear on the people who are stealing here. These are usually people with addiction problems who are stealing to order, stealing to resell, stealing to feed their next fix. They are prolific repeat offenders, and everyone kind of knows the solution, but the police have just got to do it. They've got to identify those repeat offenders, bring in meaningful penalties, take them out of the cycle of reoffending, whether that's prison, rehabilitation, whatever works. But we know what the way to tackle this. But unfortunately, the resources, the commitment, the will on behalf of local police forces is not always there. Some great examples of now in the country, police forces doing a really good job, but they're not common enough at the moment.
No, I think you and I have spoken about this before, but an awful lot of shop owners, particularly the small independents, have said to me that, you know, they've got a load of crime numbers for all the things that they've reported to the police, but they've never actually seen a policeman or a policewoman at any point.
Yeah, absolutely. And our first advice to members is always report crime. And that still is the advice. It's still what we need to do. because if you don't report it, you can't identify those repeat offenders and you can't make a dent on the problem.
Right.
But equally, I know there's a huge frustration from our members who say, well, we do report crime, nothing happens, we get no feedback, and nothing happens as a result. So it's really important to report every crime. But the onus is on the police here. The police have got to investigate every crime. It's not even actually about coming out every time there's shop theft. I think we understand that's not going to happen every single time, particularly if the offender's already left and that's the situation. But they've got to investigate. If you don't investigate, you can't possibly make a dent on this massive problem for society.
Yeah, and also, like a lot of these problems, which are sort of vaguely antisocial as much as they are criminal, you know, a lot of people are doing it because they know they won't be punished. If people realise that there's a risk that they might actually be arrested and they might actually be sentenced to some jail time, they probably will stop doing it because, you know, it's a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? If you tell people that they're never going to be punished and nobody's going to bother chasing them and nobody's ever going to bother hauling them in front of the police or in front of a court, then of course they're not going to be worried about it. And so that's why I think, you know, we need to show that there is some kind of justice that will fall upon you if you try and steal from a shop.
Yeah, absolutely. We need those offenders being prosecuted, but we also need that to be publicised. We need to be talking about that. I'd much rather us on here talking to about a series of repeat offenders who'd either gone to prison or had rehabilitation orders and reformed, whatever it was, but has stopped that cycle of reoffending. But that's never the conversation we have, because that doesn't happen enough. And so instead, what we talk about are the incidents happening and this feeling of kind of powerlessness that a lot of our members and broader communities have about crimes happening to this extent, and just feeling there's nothing they can do about it. And there is something you've got to do about it. You've got to report it every time. The police got to investigate. But we know that that's not happening nearly as much as it should.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. James, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. James Lohman there, CEO of the Association of Convenience Stores. And I think an awful lot of people would feel the pain of those individual business people trying to make a living and looking at every turn as though they are having the mickey taken out of them as well by these scumbags who just won't go in. And let's not forget, you know, Keir Starmer apparently said just this week he would not refer to shoplifters as scumbags. That would not be the language he would choose. What an absolute plonker he is. One from Johnny Nottingham. He says, Mike, great show, pal. I think Keir Starmer needed to do something to try and show the public they are doing something about migrants. Unfortunately, his 4,000 in and 1 out scheme doesn't cut it. And if number 10 gets upset you don't like him, says Kevin in Barnstable, I dread to think, Mike, how they will feel when they find out what the country thinks of him. Yeah, I know. If he ever does an opinion poll, he'll find out that the Labour government is even more unpopular than they were last week, because every week they get more unpopular. And who can say that the people of this country are wrong? Because they can see a liar and a charlatan when they notice one. And Keir Starmer is certainly that man. 7:46.
There's no discernible plan here. If they'd come in on day one and had a plan, you would grant them a bit of time to allow the plan to bed in, right? You don't expect miracle results on day one, but I can't discern what the plan is. And it does seem like the UK's business model at the moment is to chase out all of our millionaires and billionaires, wave them goodbye as they go abroad, and welcome in vast numbers of people who aren't typically particularly productive in the economy and are often on welfare. That is the UK business model.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to work out.
Go bust.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to work out well for us.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 7:49. By the way, have you heard about David Lammy? He went fishing, apparently, with JD Vance yesterday, and he didn't have a licence. So that was illegal. He's now reported himself to the environmental board, whatever it is, to say that he might have to face some kind of £2,500 fine. So he took the Vice President of the United States of America fishing, chevening, and apparently, according to the fishing rules, and there may be many of you out there who know this better than me, you have to fish with your own rod, and he didn't. And therefore, he will incur a fine, very possibly, and certainly a dressing down by the environmental authorities. Presumably, JD Vance will also have to pay a fine because he doesn't have a rod either. He's using somebody else's rod. You know, what a complete plonker that bloke Lammy is. And also, by the way, didn't catch anything. Rodney! Yeah, you guys have Rodney for I've got some fishing rods. Yeah, got them down the back of the van. Yeah, got some, I don't know where they came from. I mean, what an idiot. Mike, it's not just A-level results today, says Nicola from Norfolk. It's also Level 3 vocational technical qualifications, e.g. BTEC, and T-level results as well. Well, listen, I wish you all well. My son is waiting for his A-level results, and we'll see how he gets on as to what he does with the rest of the rest of his life. But yeah, let's talk about the heat wave now, because yesterday, right, I can't explain what happened, because it was supposed to be, again, one of the hottest days in the world, and we were all supposed to be sweating and sweating buckets because it was awful and it was very hot. And then suddenly, I was filming Plank of the Week, came out, and it was absolutely bucketing down with the rain, torrential rain, right? You know, which nobody expected, which nobody was telling us was going to happen. The BBC weather app actually still showed that it was sunny when it was raining. That's how bad they are. But according to a piece in the Mail this morning, apparently the heat wave is making potholes worse. I don't know how that is, so let's ask the man who knows. Mr. Pothole. He is Mark Morell, pothole campaigner, of course. Mark, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike.
How on earth does this work, then? Why does potholing get somehow worse because of the hot weather?
Right, so even on a day that's, say, 25 degrees, ambient temperature, tarmac can be 30 degrees higher. Because of the black colour, it soaks up heat, radiant heat. Yeah. So it starts melting at 50 degrees centigrade. So what happens then is you can get rutting, you can get stickiness. It can structurally make it unstable, because when it cools after that, it becomes more brittle.
Yeah.
So it has a knock-on effect in terms of the cycle life of the tarmac.
Okay.
Don't forget, also the breakdowns can be a result of, if you've got a tyre that's not in good condition, that's more vulnerable in the heat as well. So you get a combination of those. But, you know, I keep saying, as I said, Mike, is your answer to resurface the roads. There are polymers they put into the more heavily used roads, because back in 1995, because of a heat wave then, they developed a product to put into roads that make your melting point up to 80 degrees. But I estimate only 5 to 10% of the whole network's actually at that level. All of your local rural roads won't be. So as a knock-on effect in terms of destroying the currently failing road network.
Yeah. And what happens, like it did yesterday, where you've got like really, really intense heat for a few days, and then suddenly the rain falls on it? Presuming that's not very good for you either.
No, as I said, it goes brittle. If it gets cold very quickly, it becomes more brittle, more unstable. So, when it becomes brittle and then heats up, it's the same cycle all the time. I use the analogy of like a painted window. If it's in well maintained in direct sunlight, it doesn't have the effect that if it's you know, showing signs of cracking and of the paintwork, right, then it blisters. The same thing happens with roads. You know, and what they're supposed to do when you get sticky roads is the local highways authorities are supposed to send out gritters with a granite dust to stabilise the road. Well, I haven't seen many gritters out during the summer on our roads stabilising the roads. So therefore, they're just building up future problems as a result of that.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of the way that the economy's going, and we've got news today that GDP figures are showing that economic growth has completely slowed down because, you know, business costs too much money, frankly, because of what the Labour government's done. I mean, I presume you're not particularly optimistic that the councils are going to have a load of money to spend on potholes this particular financial year.
No, and it's just this short-term thinking. It's estimated that badly maintained roads cost the UK economy £14.4 billion a year. If you invested an extra £3 billion as part of an annual resurfacing programme, in 10 years you could halve that. And the figures were down, I think, on production costs on GDP performance this morning. Well, part of that is if your vehicles are held up in transport or get damaged by the road, that affects your production. There's a whole life thing that says it's actually pays to invest to save in our roads. It needs a brave government to say, no, we are going to invest over the next 10 to 15 years in sorting out this problem with our roads, saving money for the economy. And I think, we need to, they talk about the Reform Party. Well, I think there's lots of things that need reforming in this country. And you mentioned about Lambie. Perhaps the environmental should send environmental agencies to tell Lambie to sling his hook because, he'd be fishing in potholes next, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely right. And without a licence, no doubt. Absolutely. Well said, Mark. Mr. Pothole Morell, thank you very much indeed. He's a pothole campaigner, of course, because it gets worse, right? Potholes apparently improve and get worse and deeper when the hot weather comes because, of course, we can't get used to the tarmac being that hot. Absolutely incredible. Let's get a voice note from Anton.
Morning, Mike. Morning, Emma. Just to go on the Britannia Hotel, I'm a former police officer from Nottingham, and I can tell you 100% if I found somebody in an old lady's address, they would have been arrested immediately for attempt burglary. You only have to have the suspicion that an offence has taken place to make an arrest, and the facts can be established afterwards. I don't understand what's going on there. It makes me wonder if some higher-ups have got involved and directed what's happening. It's very strange. Thanks.
This is a very interesting story, actually, which is developing as we speak on social media. This is a story about a migrant supposedly from the Britannia Hotel, which is one of those hotels which is being used to house illegal migrants. This one in Canary Wharf, you might remember we did a lot of stuff on it last week because it became clear that there were people demonstrating outside it. They didn't like the fact that there were migrants going into the hotel. 400 quid a night is what it costs if you want to stay there, right? But apparently one particular illegal migrant was found inside a woman's house. Right, locally, turned into a police matter because the police were called, and it turns out the woman in question was blind. It's not clear how he got into the house. It's not clear whether she opened the door and let him in. But what this guy did was he got into the house. He was then apprehended by the police. And the police then said that they weren't going to do anything about it. They weren't going to in any way charge him with anything because he didn't steal anything. And people are going, sorry, this guy walks into the home of a woman, a vulnerable woman who's blind and therefore obviously vulnerable. I don't know what he did while he was in there. Nobody knows what he did. But because he left without actually taking anything, somehow the police have said, oh, it's not an offence. He hasn't broken any law. Well, surely he's broken all sorts of laws. And as we just heard there from Anton, a former police officer, he said, you don't worry about establishing the facts, you establish the facts afterwards. This guy was found to have been inside a home that he wasn't supposed to have been in. He's a migrant who came here illegally, so he's already broken the law by doing that. And he's now terrorising local people. I'm sorry, how has he not been bloody well charged with something? I don't know. Let's talk to Joan, who's in London. Hi, Joan.
Oh, well, good morning.
Morning. What can I do for you, Joan?
I was just wondering, why don't the migrants be housed in Chequers or along Whitehall, because all the civil servants are working from home anyway?
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, they could take over the Home Office. There's hardly anybody working in there.
Yeah, and then that would impact the MPs, because at the moment the MPs and all the other people are swanning around in their cars. It's not impacting them.
No.
It's just impacting us.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. It's a good idea. Joan, thank you very much indeed. All of these civil servants working from home. Yeah, let's take over their offices. Let's put these migrants in their place and make them live there and make them sleep on the floor. You know, why on earth should they get a proper bed? Why should they get a comfortable hotel and a room with an ensuite bathroom and a kettle, you know, and tea-making facilities and shortbread and, you know, side table lamps and table TV? Why should they get all that? What have they done to deserve it? They've come here illegally. They've broken into our country. Best part of optimism suggests that they won't break any laws once they get here. But you'd have to say, realistically, you know they're going to break laws because they're scumbags. Because they've come here to get a better life. And they've left their women and children behind, which tells you a lot about them, really, doesn't it? These are not people that we want in this country. I'm sorry. It's an absolute disgrace. This from Chris. High five for admitting you have an afternoon nap. I'm a man of 63. I can't function without my afternoon nap. Keep getting angry at Starmer. Keep up the great show and defend our right to nap, says Chris in Chester. I'm sorry to tell you, Chris, it's not an afternoon nap I have, it's a morning nap. Because I finish at 10 o'clock and I go home and have a nap until about 11. It does me the world of good, I have to say. And then go back out on the Turks. Coming up to 8 o'clock, this, of course, is the home of common sense. We'll be back after the news with Robert Jenrick.
My message to people smugglers is this. I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Smash the gangs. Smash the people smuggling gangs.
People schmiggling puns.
He couldn't even smash an avocado for a piece of toast.
Or the people... What would that... The people...
I think smashing the gangs is a deterrent. Well, it might be if you smashed any, if you found any.
The people smash... Those... The smash...
And he hasn't smashed anything. I mean, literally all he does is he smashes records every sort of couple of weeks, where more and more people come in a period of 24 hours.
Smash the gangs that are running this vile trade.
You're never going to smash the gangs. That's something that basically is impossible. The gangs are like the Hydra. You cut the head off and another two grow.
So I did write to ministers and say that I wasn't convinced that smashing the gangs was the right sort of way of thinking about things.
We will smash the gangs that undermine our security.
Keir Starmer has just tweeted 15 minutes ago. He says, I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source. Maybe I'll just read it all in his accent, shall I?
There is no return to freedom of movement. We have left the EU. I do not accept that prevents us working with other police units here, with prosecutors here, to smash the gangs.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure the smuggling gangs are absolutely quaking in their boots now. Keir Starmer's on their case. Solving this issue, smashing the gangs, is that the impossible dream, Tom?
It really seems beyond him at the minute, I have to say.
We're going to get the evil people smugglers and we're going to smash them and we're going to put them in jail. That will solve the migrant crisis.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer's promise to smash the gangs has resulted in just 5 convictions. Hurrah for operating small boats.
So what he really wants to say is that this policy of smashing the gangs is a total and utter disaster. There isn't a cat in hell's chance that it's going to work.
It's crap. It's crap. That's what he's basically saying.
I know you're angry about immigration. I get it. Mark my words, I will take back control of our borders. That means cutting migration, ending the use of asylum hotels and ramping up our efforts to stop small boat crossings.
It's like a parallel universe, the real world as told by the impressive David Bolt, and Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves' fantasy world.
We will smash the people smuggling gangs at source.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I'm Mike Graham, and it's coming up to 3 minutes past 8. It is a glorious morning. It is, of course, the Thursday of the week. It is the 14th of August, halfway through the month of August, amazingly. It's A-level day, but it's also not just A-level day, T-level as well, and VTQ results, as we were pointing out. Keir Starmer's actually put a tweet out about it. It's his first one of the day, and it's as ridiculous as all his other first tweets of the day. This one says, congratulations to everyone receiving T-level, A-level and VTQ results today. He says, whatever the outcome, if you've worked hard, you should be proud. What's he talking about? What, you should be proud if you failed? You should be proud if you haven't achieved the right results in order to go to university, and instead you'll be going to some technical college to do something that you didn't really want to do. Congratulations are in order. He says, I want all young people to have the opportunity to realise their ambition and get the skills they need to thrive. Oh, dear me. What an absolute crock of nonsense. Keir Starmer, the world's worst Prime Minister, man. A guy who could not lie straight in bed, a guy who cannot tell the truth. This morning he's been exposed as being a liar once again over the NHS. The NHS, it has been proved, have misled the public about why the waiting lists have fallen, according to a think tank, a very well-regarded think tank called the Nuffield Trust. I've been saying this for years, right? I've been telling you that they've been trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I've been telling you that Wes Streeting has been lying as well about the way that appointments are keep being made and more people are being seen. They say no, we put on 2 million more appointments. No, is it 3 million more appointments? Is it 4 million more appointments? Is it 4.5 million? They don't know, right? Because they're just making it up as they go along. According to the Nuffield Trust, 260,000 people have been dropped on the backlog since the general election every single month, right? Apparently they say that basically patients have died, they've had treatment elsewhere, privately, or they've moved abroad. And so they've been removed from the system, and therefore the government have claimed that they've reduced the waiting list. We all know it's not true. We all know it's an absolute crock of nonsense. Meanwhile, quite importantly, a big story on page 2 of The Sun, America's blast for UK censors. Donald Trump's US administration has attacked Britain for serious restrictions on free speech over the past year. And they mentioned, of course, Lucy Connolly, who's apparently going to be released from prison on August the 21st. The Sun have also got a front page where they say there's a gun plot linked to a £64 million Arsenal deal. And this is all about a guy called Victor Gyökeres, the guy who's coming to play for Arsenal from Stockholm in Sweden. He joined the Gunners from Sporting Lisbon last month, but apparently a shooting and alleged blackmail plot is being investigated by police for links to the signing of his this particular striker to the football club in North London. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Meanwhile, we'll be talking to Robert Jenrick later on, because the Daily Mail has a story that says the BBC has climbed down over a slur on the top Tory, Robert Jenrick. He was accused of being a xenophobe by some bozo who did Thought for the Day, Dr. Krish Kandiah, who it turns out not only is a doctor, but he runs a refugee charity. What a complete and utter numpty. Meanwhile, the super dinghies are carrying 107 people here in one big go. And that, I can tell you, is not a small boat. 0344 499 1000. I've been quite worked up this morning about a whole number of things. Jill from Berkshire says, this morning, Mike, I feel your frustration every single day. Have you noticed that both Starmer and Yvette Cooper say in their rehearsed speech what they're going to do about people coming, they say, on small boat? Not boats, yeah, they say it in singular. So presumably they only plan to deal with one boat. Are these boats starting to look more like small cruise liners, or is it just me? Great show. I'm blowing a gasket with you, says Jill. Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. These boats are not small. There is no chance that they're small. Let's get a voice note from Mark.
Look at the size of this mega dinghy thing. They're just taking the wee-wee now, aren't they? Really? Are they really saying to us that these illegal migrants set this boat up and hid it in the sand dunes without anybody knowing? Look at the size of it. It's got to have a big outboard motor on it. That thing would take like 2 hours to inflate with a generator and a compressor. So they've been somewhere in a side road on a street near the sand dunes setting it all up. Then they've had to carry it down the beach. They're saying the police couldn't stop them setting this thing up and slash it. This stuff's just getting out of hand now. There's no way that I believe that the French police or the EU or wherever don't know that this is going on and don't know how to stop it.
No, of course they do. You know, we learn all the time that the French police just stand around, you know, smoking their gitan and drinking their black coffee and watching as 107 people clamber onto a dinghy. It's been described in the Daily Mail, they sent a reporter over there last week, as dinghy rush hour. So what basically happens is that around about 7 a.m, about 2 or 3 dinghies appear in very quick succession, one after the other, and people clamber on and they get over here, and by the time the evening has come, by the time the sun has set, they're in a hotel somewhere near Heathrow. Absolutely extraordinary. Let's talk to Peter Hitchens, who is here, columnist at the Mail on Sunday. Very good morning to you, Peter.
Good morning, Mike.
I feel increasingly like I'm living in some kind of Alice in Wonderland world, which is completely and utterly beyond me and over which I have no control. And it's starting to really annoy me.
Well, you're right about the last bit. You do have no control. The point that I have been trying to make for what seems like about 300 years now is that this country has been subject to a revolution in which all the things that you used to think were normal have been overturned. They've left the buildings standing, and in general they haven't seized the post office or flown a red flag over the town hall. On occasion they have. But in fact, we do have now a government of people who are absolutely not sympathetic to the sort of thing that you and I believe or to what we want. They believe in the free movement of people, as they call it. They don't really believe in borders at all. And that's one of the many aspects of what they believe. And you'll find the same in the management of the economy. You'll find the same in the management of the public services. You'll find the same in the education system. We are actually living in a country which has been taken over by people who don't actually believe what most people believe. And this daily pantomime of both the migrants coming illegally across the channel and being effectively welcomed, and many, many more migrants coming legally into the country in such quantities that we simply haven't got anywhere to put them, is part of this. The left long have believed that large-scale migration is an important tool for changing the country, and they have been using it for that. They continue to do so. Right. Add to that, I used to think that it was possible to pay the French enough to get them to stop migrants coming from France. I've given up on that idea now because they're obviously not going to.
No.
We have become France's Rwanda. And France, of course, has its own major...
Yeah. We are now the offshore dumping ground, aren't we, for European migrants?
Well, they don't mind people going. I mean, they have a very large number of illegal migrants in France, as in almost all the major continental countries. And they don't mind at all passing a large number of them on to Britain. And so they're not really going to stop them, I don't think. I'm not sure there's enough money in the world to pay them to do what they constantly promise to do. So, but the crucial thing that people have to realize when they look at absolutely every item of news which you read on your bulletin here, is this is the result of us having obtained, by stealth, a form of government which nobody really wanted or was given a chance to reject. I won't say they didn't vote for it, because people did actually vote, for instance, for the Blair government in the 1990s in very large numbers, because they were fooled into thinking it was something quite different from what it was. And in many ways, you could say they were also fooled into thinking in the Thatcher era that they had a conservative government when it wasn't one. So, but if you don't pay attention to this sort of thing and you dismiss people like me as pain in the neck intellectuals, which you're welcome to do if you want to, then this is what you get. And here we have it on your...
I was always very much of the belief, particularly during the Blair years, in sort of early part of the 2000s, that they deliberately made politics kind of boring to look at so that people would sort of disengage with it and wouldn't really notice what they were doing and wouldn't really take part in what they were doing and would just kind of go, it's the government. And that's kind of how we got to where we are, because people just lost interest in voting.
Well, partly that, but they're also quite clever in pretending to be interested in things that people were interested in. If you remember going back all those years, Blair kept going on about tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. What people thought he meant when he said that was that he was going to be tough on crime. What he actually meant was nothing of the kind, that they were going to continue to spend vast amounts of money on social provision, because they believe that crime is the result of poverty and abuse and all kinds of sociological things, rather than the result of selfish people thinking they can get away with it, which is the fact. And they did nothing whatever to strengthen the enforcement of the criminal law, or particularly the deterrence of crime.
Right.
And then they said education, education, education. And what they actually did was they made illegal the opening of new state schools, which selected on the grounds of ability. And the rest of the time, they just promoted the comprehensive education ideal as they see it, which is really a system in which the egalitarianism is enforced by schools, but at the same time the moderately well-off can escape the worst of it, because and we had again in This Is Money a very interesting report on this week, the rule is that if you can afford to live in the catchment area of one of the better schools, you'll get off reasonably well. I don't say the education is anything like as good as it was before the grammar schools were abolished, but you can certainly get a better education and a more disciplined school for your children if you pay more for your house. So that all continues to go on, and as a result, people don't rise in revolt against what is actually a very bad form of education. And look at these universities frantically lowering their prices and offering students places, because the whole thing is quite obviously really a business. And we have it's not an education system at all.
No.
I'm not at all sure that these degrees that people are borrowing so much money to get will be worth very much to them in future life. But what they are, the really funny thing, if you're bitter, if you have the sort of bitter humour that I increasingly have, is that people are being forced to borrow to pay for what is effectively 3 years of unemployment.
Yeah.
And so not merely do they not have jobs, not merely are they quite unlikely to get jobs, but they're also having to get themselves into very, very deep debt to be in this position. Well, what good is that?
Well, I mean, on A-level results day, we've got this breaking piece of news for you. The total number of students accepted onto UK degree courses has risen by 3.1% on last year. 439,180 people taking up places so far, according to UCAS. I mean, that is a recipe for disaster. They're all going to go. There's nearly 500,000 people. They're all going to go to university. Not one of them is going to get a decent job afterwards that makes more than about £22,000 a year. It's a complete and utter sham.
Well, yes, also then the results which you get, the A-level results and the high grades, which we'll doubtless be told about later on, how terrific it is that everyone's done so well, are in fact simply measures of grade inflation. You compare the examination papers which people have to sit these days, and everyone says, why are you being so horrid to these poor children? I'm not. I feel very sorry for them because they've been robbed even of the knowledge that they could have had a better education. But examinations of even 20 years ago were immensely tougher than they are now. And if you look at examination papers from before the comprehensive era, they'd make you weep to see how much more was required of people at school. And therefore, as more was required of them, they learnt more.
Yeah.
But now we have a population which is very inadequately educated, but on the other hand is armed with huge numbers of certificates claiming that they are well educated.
Yes, and that apparently means that they must be. I know. Let's talk about your piece in the Mail today about facial recognition, because a lot of people talked about this week, because I actually heard what some described as a conspiracy theory. It was on the Ian Collins show yesterday, that he said that the police have kind of allowed crime to sort of escalate on the basis that they knew that coming in the future was this kind of slightly dystopian vision of criminal activity in the future, where nobody would commit crime because they'd all be under surveillance so much that they wouldn't do it.
Well, the people are under surveillance in this case just for living and breathing. What I saw at Paddington Station in London was this van set up, scanning everybody who went by, including me, lots of innocent people. I made some inquiries. The police were very open with it. They said that it was random. They weren't particularly aiming at anyone, but they caught, they said 5 people. I've no doubt they did. And of course, if what you want to do is to make up for the fact that if there's an awful lot of people roaming around who haven't been caught or ought to be being arrested and haven't been, well, these vans will doubtless help you do it.
Right.
But that doesn't prevent crime. It's not going. If you walk through Paddington Station, there are constant announcements saying, "Do not be a victim of crime."
Right.
Thieves operate in this area. Doesn't stop it.
Right.
And what stops crime is a police presence. I have to say it every day if I can. If you have patrolling police officers, not in groups talking about their overtime, but one police officer moving about, he creates a zone of vigilance around him which alters behaviour and prevents crime.
Yeah.
The police cannot, if a crime has happened, they can't unstab you, they can't unmug you, they can't unburgle you. All they can do is, if you're lucky, they can actually have a prosecution which is successful, and then the person who's mugged, stabbed or burgled you, perhaps go to prison for a few minutes before being let out. This isn't anything to do with the proper crime prevention which the police are supposed to do. The other thing about it, of course, is that if the police ever fell into the hands of a government which wanted to suppress free speech,
yes,
and could simply identify anybody it wanted walking on the streets with these machines, then it would be a much less free society than it already is. So all these things arise. It doesn't actually solve the problem of crime, but it does increase the dangers that the police will become a political surveillance organisation, and I think we should be very wary of it.
Yes, I think because if they snoop on you, and who knows what laws they're going to change in order to make it so that what you've done, which you didn't know was unlawful, actually was then unlawful. Peter, good to talk to you. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm just going to say, 25 years ago, who'd have thought police would be knocking on people's doors, arresting them for things that they'd said?
Right.
So 25 years hence, what will we be seeing in this country?
Yeah.
That's the warning I offer.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Good to talk to you, Peter. We've got to go. Thank you very much indeed. Columnist at the Mail on Sunday, Peter Hitchens there. He's got a big piece in the paper today about this facial recognition technology which is being introduced into London streets so that supposedly crimes can be prevented from happening. But is it not the case that actually, if you are going to start filming absolutely everything that everybody does, you're going to start inventing crimes that people have committed, and you're going to start telling people that they're going to be done for something that they didn't know was illegal? That's where it starts to get tricky. 0344 499 1000 is the number. Coming up, we're going to go across to Ukraine, where Kira Rudik is going to join us. She's a Ukrainian MP and leader of the Voice Party. Also, Sophie Ellsworth's going to be here as well. And we're going to talk about what's going on in the world of Trump and Zelensky and, of course, Vladimir Putin. They're meeting up in Alaska on Friday, tomorrow, to try and find some kind of way of getting a peace deal in Ukraine. 0344 499 1000 is the number. This is Talk.
If you're an asylum seeker, you get given something called an HC2 certificate,
That's
which
the one, yeah.
qualifies you for all that kind of stuff. Dentists, prescriptions, all free of charge. Not only that, but you're allowed to claim the cost of travel to go to a hospital or a surgery or so on. Now, these certificates, HC2 certificates, are given out to some UK citizens, but 2/3 of them at present are being given to asylum seekers.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's coming up to 23 minutes past 8. The time is really flying by. I'm a slightly more calm individual than I was when I started. I was really quite annoyed this morning when we started going on about the government and what they were doing. But now I'm sort of reached a kind of zen moment, so I can be fine. We're going to talk in a moment to Sophie Ellsworth. Sophie, very good morning to you. News Corporation's Australian correspondent here in London. Great to see you. Well, last time we spoke, you were up in Turnberry, up in Scotland. Now you're back here. You're going to be covering the Zelensky meeting with Keir Starmer in Downing Street. Let's have a quick look at what Donald Trump had to say yesterday about the consequences for Russia if things don't go well.
There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing. Again, this is Biden's war. This isn't my war. He got us into this thing. And it should have never happened. This war would have never happened if I were president. But it is what it is, and I'm here to fix it.
Will Russia face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
There will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences, yes. Yeah, please.
I mean, here we are. Sophie, very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming in. Since we started this show, it's been announced that Vladimir Zelensky is coming to London to have a meeting with Keir Starmer in Downing Street. You're probably going to be attending that. Obviously, Starmer's trying to put himself in the picture, isn't he? He's kind of trying to take part in all of it, which at the moment he's not really in, because the big deal is in Alaska and he's not there. So what are you expecting?
Well, we don't know exactly what they're going to discuss today, but obviously it's ahead of the meeting tomorrow, which is really critical. The whole world is really watching this meeting closely to hope that there'll be a resolution that come out of this. And Donald Trump has made it very clear that he wants a resolution from this. The pressure is now on for him to deliver this. Keir Starmer obviously having the Ukrainian president at Downing Street today is very important for them to, you know, discuss what is ahead of tomorrow on the back of that meeting they had, the virtual meeting they had in Berlin yesterday. But it is interesting, Zelensky won't be in Alaska, and he's pretty angry about that, Mike.
Right. Yeah, because he wanted to be part of these talks, right? But Trump has always said that he's got a relationship with Putin which is not really anybody else's business. We don't really know what that is. We don't know whether he's going to be able to get anything from Putin that he would otherwise have got. Do you know what I mean? So, but the fact that he's doing anything is probably a good thing, right?
Well, I think this is Donald Trump obviously trying to really make his mark. If he can end this war between Ukraine and Russia, this will be a massive win for him, obviously. But he can't just keep saying, I'm ending all these wars without actually proving that he can do that.
Right.
But he has said, as we know, that there'll be very severe consequences if Putin doesn't come to the table. But as we know, Putin may agree to things and then break them.
Right.
So who knows what will come of tomorrow. And Donald Trump has also said there may be a second meeting and that he will call Zelensky after this initial meeting. So whether we get a result tomorrow, who knows?
Right. And the thing about the Putin-Trump relationship is that it's been sort of there for quite a long time. And Trump has got some skin in the game because it's you know, he wants to be able to make it happen, doesn't he? I mean, for him, this would be the kind of jewel in the crown of his first year in office, I guess.
Well, absolutely it would. It'd be a massive win for him if he can do this. It is interesting Zelensky won't be there because, Mike, how could we forget that meeting that Zelensky had with Trump and Vance that ended in tears, really? That was disaster. So perhaps some may disagree with this, but perhaps it is better that Zelensky isn't there because we know his approach in that meeting with Trump earlier in this year. Many people frowned upon that. Some thought Trump treated him poorly. Others thought Zelensky behaved badly.
Right.
So perhaps it's a lesson for Zelensky that he has to, you know, perhaps be more diplomatic in these discussions.
Yeah, I think so. Because a lot of people in this country as well are fed up to the back teeth of seeing Keir Starmer giving more money to Zelensky every time he turns up. He gives him another couple of billion, which we frankly don't have. You know, maybe what they should do is take him down the road to Chevening and introduce him to JD Vance again and do a bit of fishing.
Well, we know that JD Vance has been fishing, don't we, in the Cotswolds.
He's going to get a fine, I think, isn't he? Because he didn't have a licence.
Well, that's right. The fact you need a licence. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But JD Vance has been strong on this. The American leaders want a result tomorrow, but then there's all this talk about what's going to be the trade-offs. Are there going to be minerals exchanged? Zelensky said he will not be giving up land.
Right.
So there's not a lot of budging here. And we know that Ukraine has very good lithium storage. Which are important for battery manufacturing. So whether they will hand over any of that remains to be seen.
Yeah, we shall see. Good to see you, Sophie. Thank you very much indeed. Sophie Ellsworth, News Corp, Australia's European correspondent. We're going to talk now to Kira Rudik, who's over in Ukraine, Voice Party leader, a friend of ours here on the show. Kira, very good morning to you.
Hello, Mike, and thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. Nice to see you. Volodymyr Zelensky on his way, I think, to London as we speak, hoping to have a meaningful meeting with Keir Starmer today. What has he said back home that he's hoping to achieve?
Right now, President Zelensky is trying to rally up support for Ukraine in Europe to get the so-called coalition of the willing all together, to tell President Trump that Europe needs to be included in all kinds of negotiation about European security, and that Ukraine needs to be included into all negotiation about Ukraine's future. If that would work, we do not know, but it's a good thing that right now we are gathering everybody who is supporting Ukraine, and that Europe will try to stand strong, and that Europe will try to make a point that President Trump may talk to Putin, but he cannot exclude Europe from the discussion of Europe's future.
Right. And what's the current situation? How has it been there for the last couple of weeks in terms of the attacks on Kiev?
So it's been a bit quieter. However, the air raid sirens are going off often. We have seen that the attacks right now are concentrated on the cities that are closer to the front line. So perhaps Putin learned one thing after the last call with President Trump, not to launch the super-scale massive attack on Kyiv right after you talk to American president, publicly humiliating him. However, we know that Russia is accumulating the resources for the attack, and that Russia is pushing very hard on the front line.
Right. And is there any position under which your government might accept a peace deal that involved maybe giving back some land to Russia?
So the main question is and would be, what are the security guarantees? So how do you make sure that Putin would not attack us again in a half year, in a year, or after President Trump is not in the office? Because this is the key point that will then imply what can be the status of the temporary occupied territories and all the other territorial discussions. However, of course, according to Ukrainian constitution, Ukraine is a sovereign land and sovereign country, and President Zelensky, even if he wanted, he couldn't just do it neither legally nor politically. So we are the same country, Mike, that people were saying that we will give up in 3 or 4 days and will fall down. We did not fall, we did not capitulate. We do not intend to capitulate right now, and of course we are not giving away our territories, our people, our land to Russia just because somebody said so.
Interesting. Kira, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Kira Rudik there. Just back to Sophie. It's interesting, isn't it, that they've had this conversation going on for quite a long time, and a lot of people in the West have said, you know, Ukraine is just going to have to accept that, you know, they've lost the Donbass, they've lost Crimea, they've lost various parts of the country, which Russia's been occupying really for the best part of 2 years. But it seems like they're not willing to give it up.
And I think this is the problem, Mike.
Yeah.
It's been going on for how long now?
Yeah,
I mean,
3 years, right?
About 3 years, a bit longer. And what they're doing is not working. And it seems that Volodymyr Zelensky will not basically give or take on anything. He's pretty strong with what he wants. He said they won't give up land. This is where Trump has had to intervene. What we're doing to date, or what they are doing to date, has failed to work.
Yeah.
So let's see tomorrow, because if Trump can pull this off, this will be an incredible mark for him, because it's something that it couldn't happen under the previous administration either.
Yeah. Well, he says, doesn't he, that if it wasn't for Biden being the president, the war would never have started anyway. But how about this, right? I got this from Ernie. He says, Mike, I don't think Putin will go anywhere near Alaska, stepping foot on American soil. He won't leave Russia. He's paranoid to get arrested, assassinated, or they won't let him back in. Wait for the excuse he makes. Well, he says he's going to go, and there's any chance that he won't turn up?
I think it would be unlikely, with all the world watching, that Putin's suddenly not going to roll up.
Right.
And what, he's just going to stand up the US president?
And he's a showman, isn't he? He likes the idea that he can show up with his you know, his version of the beast, you know, and the whole, you know, cavalcade and the motorcade, and there he'll be sort of, you know, waving his willy around, basically going, I'm a bigger man than you are, Mr. Donald Trump.
Absolutely. He wants the world to look at him. He's a narcissist, really.
Yeah.
He wants everyone to be looking at him. He wants this to be a performance on the world stage. But as Zelensky has said, he's bluffing when it comes to worrying about whether sanctions are going to matter. Are further tariffs that could be implemented if a ceasefire isn't met? Could that happen as well? Does Putin actually care, Mike? Does he really care about the consequences of this?
Right.
He's a dictator.
In his case, I mean, he probably quite likes being at war, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
It's quite good for him.
I don't believe that he would be likely to want to see this to end.
No, I think that may be right. Good to talk to you, Sophie. Thank you very much indeed. Sophie Ellsworth there, News Corp Australia's European correspondent. We spoke to Kira Rudik there as well. Coming up, Robert Jenrick, the Shadow Minister for Justice, is going to be joining us. He's had quite a busy week. He's been all over the place talking about what is going wrong with this country. We'll find out what he wants to talk about very shortly. This is Talk.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. I am, of course, Mike Graham, and this is the Home of Common Sense. Robert Jenrick is going to be joining us very shortly, Shadow Justice Secretary. Trevor says this, it angers me when I hear that asylum seekers get everything paid for when they have never paid into the system. I'm an ex-army veteran and my military pension is not much, and as I work, my army pension is taxed at 40% as it's classed as second income. I can't wait to leave this country for good. We are being scammed. Well, this is the thing, right? People are being told now that if you have got a pension, if you have worked hard, if you have managed to amass some money and you have actually got hopes that you might be able to hand some of that over to your family because you might pass on and you might want to leave them some money, that they're going to come after you for that as well. And they've already taxed it before you saved it. Now they want to tax it while you're saving it, and then they want to tax it when you try and give it away. It's unbelievable. Morning, Mike. My niece recently passed her driving test. She had her birthday last weekend, and I got her an air freshener for her car as a joke present. Some of those even had electronic tags on them. Who's nicking those? Says Blake in Wigan. People are actually nicking, you know, what do you call it? Air fresheners for cars. Absolutely ridiculous. Here's one from Sarah. It says, morning, Mike. I started work at 7:30. We'll work until about 8 p.m. tonight. I don't get paid overtime, but someone left and wasn't replaced. I'll revise all weekend for a professional exam in September. I'll be sitting exams for another 18 months. I pay my own course and exam fees. I do all this for a better life, but can't see how it will be better when I qualify. Anything I earn will be gone in increased prices and taxes. Thinking I should jack it all in, go on benefits, steal from shops and watch TikTok all day. Well, you wouldn't be surprised if that's what you ended up doing, because people are getting sick to the back teeth of being taken for granted. And that's where we are. Let's have a quick call from Dave, who's in Leeds. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Mike. You all right?
Yeah, not bad, mate. What can I do for you?
It's just a little bit on that NHS you were speaking about this morning.
Oh, yeah.
With the cancellation.
Yeah, they finally admitted that they've been doing what I said they were doing, which was basically misleading the public.
Well, I knew you were right, because it's been happening to me, but the worst bit is my best friend, who's 52, got diagnosed with throat cancer. So they've done the scan, they've sorted him out, fixed him up, given him a few other scans, and he was supposed to go for a scan every 6 weeks thereafter. Anyway, they keep cancelling their appointments, they put him back, then they forgot about him in the end. He's gone back and they've said, yeah, we did spot cancer at the first bit in your lung, but because we've cancelled all your appointments and now we've forgot about you, you've now got stage 4 lung cancer and it's terminal.
Oh,
so,
God.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate.
Isn't that awful?
There we go.
Isn't that awful? I've heard so many stories like that where they've misdiagnosed people, they've delayed their treatment for so long, and then suddenly when they actually find them and get them and examine them, they go, sorry, you've got stage 4 cancer. It's absolutely shocking. Absolutely shocking. Dave, thanks for the call. Very, very nice to hear from you. Got loads and loads of you getting in touch about all sorts of things this morning. But I'm delighted to say I'm joined now by Robert Jenrick, Shadow Justice Secretary. Robert, good to see you.
Good morning. Good
Welcome
to be here.
back to the home of common sense. You've just tweeted about your visit to northern France, which happened over the last few days. 1,190 migrants crossed the Channel since Saturday to Monday. Is it any surprise? Well, this is how easy the French make it to break in. Britain is being scammed. We've been talking this week about this TikTok migrant, a guy who came in on Saturday, filmed himself coming in on Saturday, and then found himself in a hotel by Heathrow Airport by Sunday afternoon. This on the same week that Keir Starmer said, we're going to arrest everybody who comes to this country illegally. We're going to detain them and we're going to deport them. Well, clearly they're not doing that, are they?
No, look, I've been following this issue for years.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go to northern France to see for myself exactly what was happening on the ground now. And even I, having followed this for so long, was shocked by what I saw. The fact that the French are aiding and abetting illegal migrants coming into the UK. I went to Lune Plage, one of the biggest camps, a lawless, dark place where there are guns, knives, people have been killed in recent times. And as I was leaving, I found a group of migrants, maybe 40 or 50 people, mostly men, and they were literally holding life jackets, walking towards the main road. So we followed them, and they then got on a public bus, didn't pay their fare, and then they went into Dunkirk, walked through the centre of the town. Everyone could see them.
Still wearing a life jacket?
Plain sight. They were holding or wearing their life jackets. I've got it all on film. And then they hid away on the edge of the beach overnight, and we tracked them there. And then first thing in the morning, they headed down to the beach and presumably to try to get a small boat to England. Everyone knew what was going on. It was happening in broad daylight. The French were literally busing them to the beaches. And then the worst thing of all was, as dawn broke, I phoned the police because I'm not a journalist. I want to stop these people coming into the UK. It's not an academic exercise to me. I think it's doing incalculable damage to our country. So I phoned the French police and said, I've just seen this group of migrants. They've literally got life jackets in their hands. They're heading towards the beach. And the police officer on the phone said, well, I'll pass it on. I'm not sure that anyone will come out. And as far as I'm aware, nobody did. So we are literally being scammed. We're wasting £800 million
what are
a
we
year,
getting the money for?
and nothing is being done. It's a complete disgrace.
It is, because obviously, you know, if you're a police officer in that part of the world, you know, one of the things you're going to see all the time is illegal migrants. You know, they're coming into your part of the world. They're living amongst you, if you like. They must be coming into the towns from time to time, whether they're doing that for good or ill. And then occasionally they're walking to the beach, and you think, well, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist or even a police officer to go, there's clearly, you know, criminal behaviour going on here. Go and arrest some people. We've got a clip, I think, from your tweet. Let's have a look.
I've just spent 48 hours in northern France. I wanted to see what's going on up close.
I'm Robert. I'm from England. Why do you want to go to England?
We're told these are refugees, fleeing danger. But that's not what I found.
I live in Saudi Arabia. I'm working in office for the passport.
Well, so you think if you come to England, you won't be sent anywhere. You get to live in London. Yeah. And are you worried about getting a small boat across the channel? No.
It's not long before a man warns me to leave the camp. And moments later, bottles are thrown at me.
Hold on. Go now.
I mean, you can see from that these are not people who are in any way cowed by your presence. They're not in any way intimidated by the fact that, you know, they may not know who you are, but, you know, the fact is they're not bothered about the fact that you're asking questions. There's a piece in the Mail today saying that these boats are now getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and I think it's safe to say that it's no longer actually a perilous crossing. Because I know that occasionally people die, occasionally there's a terrible incident and people drown. But it doesn't happen very often when you consider the thousands of people. We've got 50,000 people have now come since last July, since Keir Starmer has been in charge. And they're now putting as many as 107 people on these super-sized dinghies. They're not even, you can't really call them small boats anymore, can you?
No, that's right. Well, look, the camps, that exist in northern France are lawless places.
Yeah.
There's no sign of the police whatsoever.
Right.
They're essentially run by gangsters, and it is mostly young men in those camps. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's not what the lefty Open Borders Brigade say. Most people speak poor English.
Yeah.
I ask people what their skills are, what their professions are. Most people don't have anything to contribute to this country. These are people who, when they get here, are going to be a massive drag on the British taxpayer, diverting resources from Brits who are truly in need. And there are some obviously very dangerous people in those camps. Several people have been shot dead in the very camp that I went to in the last 6 months. Do you want these people on the streets of our country? I don't.
I certainly don't.
Yesterday morning on Thought for the Day, BBC Radio 4, I was accused of being xenophobic for saying this. But I would challenge anyone to say, go to those camps, see some of the men that I saw, and imagine that they are outside your kids' school gates or in the playground, walking the high street. We don't want these people in our country.
Well, guess what? You don't have to imagine it, Robert, because you just go down to Canary Wharf, where a boy yesterday was apprehended walking into somebody's house.
That's right.
A woman's house, a blind woman, who the police apparently have said they're not going to do anything to him because he didn't steal anything. It's like, hang on a minute, you know, these people are wandering around the streets of this country, being put up in hotels, being given food, sustenance, you know, money. They've been given credit cards sometimes to go out and gamble if they want. It's an absolute disgrace. I said this morning, I was quite angry this morning, I was like, you know, if you pay taxes in this country, if you do the right thing, if you raise your family, if you try and save money, if you try and put something away for, you know, at a rainy day or for your inheritance to pass on to your kids, you're a mug. Because basically there are so many people now in this country coming here, not doing that, and just living off the rest of us.
Yeah, look, it isn't even actually about whether these are good or bad people, and some are obviously bad people. It's that they've just got no business in our country.
Exactly.
They shouldn't be coming to our country and diverting resources that Brits need. We're not a receptacle for all of the people in the world. We are a country with borders, and we have to put our own people first. And when I was sat at daybreak on Dunkirk Beach, having phoned the police and then basically laughed at me, I thought, what would our, you know, forebears who had sat on that beach in 1940 have thought about this situation, that we were so weak as a country that we couldn't tackle some jumped-up gangsters and some rubber dinghies, and we were going to allow this to happen to our country. It's a disgrace that the French are treating us this way, but it's also shameful that we have such weak and gutless leaders, that we haven't done what needs to be done. Because the tragedy of the situation is we know how to fix this. Change our human rights laws, get out of these outdated treaties like the ECHR, and deport every single one of these migrants. If we did that, then all this would go away.
Of course.
The misery, the violence, the deaths in the Channel, the incalculable cost here with the hotels and the violence and the sexual crimes that are happening in our own country, it would all go away. We just need Keir Starmer and our whole political elite, frankly, to step up and do what needs to be done.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. We've actually got the clip from Radio 4. Let's have a listen to what they said yesterday.
A front-page story in the Mail on Sunday quoted Shadow Justice Minister Robert Jenrick talking about his fears for his young daughters. He said, "I certainly don't want my children to share a neighbourhood with men from backward countries who broke into Britain illegally and about whom we know next to nothing." These words echo a fear many have absorbed, fear of the stranger. The technical name for this is xenophobia.
That's Dr. Chris Kandaya, who didn't reveal, and neither did the BBC, that he's a trustee of a refugee charity. Now, far be it from me to make any accusations about whether he makes any money out of that. He may not. But he represents that kind of ridiculous middle-class elite of people who think all immigration's great, you know, all migrants are good people and they enrich our society. It's complete nonsense, and nobody in this country believes it anymore.
No, look, it's always you know, a pleasure to wake up in the morning and find yourself smeared as a racist before breakfast.
It's always good,
on Radio 4.
Get used to it.
I am used to it, Mike. Don't worry about that. But they've belatedly apologised and taken the thing down. Although why the BBC keep making these mistakes, I don't know. And I think they're forced to do it because
we do know.
Because there's flagrant bias in the organisation. But the public won't stand for it anymore. We're absolutely sick of this. And this bloke, who I don't really know, but he is not telling the truth. He's basically lying to the British public, and we all know that. We can see for ourselves what's happening on the streets. These arrests that are being made on an almost daily basis, the sexual offences that we're hearing, the men who are being charged, who have been staying in the hotels. This has got to come to an end because we want to have a simple principle where we put the safety of the British public first. I'm never going to put the safety of an illegal migrant or their well-being above our own women and girls. And yes, I am worried as a father about what's happening on the streets of our country, as I think are millions of people.
Of course they are.
And when I look at those protests, yeah, there might be a small number of people who are intent on causing trouble, but the vast majority of people, not many, the vast majority of people there are just fair-minded, patriotic people who are worried about their communities, and their patience has snapped.
Exactly right. Let me read you this from Marco in Swindon. He says, "Good morning, Mike. Thank you for highlighting the reality of grim Britain. I live in a relatively nice area of Swindon where they recently opened an HMO just up the road on my estate. 7 Afghan lads were moved in, and they are already stealing from the local co-op, screaming and shouting and playing music all night, and the police will do absolutely nothing about it. The only escape I get is jumping into my van and going to work. Even now, it's not even worth it. Try and stay strong, Britain. I'm sure there will be some sort of light at the end of the tunnel when Reform UK come into power." I get these messages all the time now because every place you go in Britain, and you've seen it up and down the country with these protests, you know, from whether it's Bournemouth, whether it's, you know, Diss in Norfolk, whether it's Canary Wharf, whether it's out in Epping, you know, people are just fed up to the back teeth because they can see what's going on in front of their very eyes. You know, they don't have to listen to, you know, Thought for the Day to wonder whether or not Britain is a wonderful, green and pleasant land, or whether all these kind of people like, you know, John Rentoul and Fraser Nelson tell us actually crime's down and Britain's really great and why are you all complaining of it? It's a far-right sort of trope. It's all, we can see what's happening. You just have to walk out here in London Bridge. You know, I'll walk out here at 10 o'clock and there'll be probably a crime committed before my very eyes, right? And we all know that's what's going on.
Yeah, well, look, I've spent a lot of the summer going to visit some of these places. I've been to Fareham, I've been to Altrincham, I've been to Diss.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the protests myself. And these are just good people who are genuinely worried about their communities. And I think that people feel that they are mugs.
Yeah.
They are going to work every day, they're paying their taxes, and yet you've got this group of people breaking into our country, flagrant abuse of our laws, who are then being given all of these benefits. And it's got to end. It's now got to end. Enough is enough. And we know how to do it. Don't rely on the kindness of strangers. The French could stop this tomorrow, but why are we wasting our time on state visits and hundreds of millions of pounds when we can see that they're not doing anything to tackle this? We have to do it ourselves. That means changing the laws and deporting every single one of these migrants who come into our country. And look at other countries. Australia fixed this within weeks when they did exactly the same.
Greece has done exactly the same thing.
Greece have taken action. Look what's happened in the United States, where within months the Trump administration has secured the southern border. This can be done. A better way is possible. We can restore order in our country, but it will require real leadership and determination.
Robert, stay with us if you can, because we've got lots of other things to talk to you about as well. Robert Jenrick's here, Shadow Justice Minister. It's 8:51. This talk back after this.
Shoplifting on our high streets, in our inner city centres. These responsibilities and duties should be outsourced to ordinary members of the public. And I have a real problem with that, because firstly, it seems like we're ultimately giving up on the bread and butter of neighbourhood policing, especially when it comes to crime such as shoplifting, which, to be honest, on many high streets, shoplifting has become de facto decriminalised, such as the absence of neighbourhood policing.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 8:53. We're here, of course, until 10 o'clock. Julie Hartley-Brewer will be along later on to tell us what's happening between 10 and 1. This from Jenny in Bicester. The Home Secretary announced people advertising illegal channel crossings online could face up to 5 years in prison under a new offence the government announced. So why has this person not been arrested? We're talking about the guy in the Sun, who is, of course, he's supposedly from Afghanistan, we think. He's known as the TikTok migrant because he's been live streaming his lovely time that he's having here in the UK. I don't understand. Robert Jenrick's here. Sorry, I should probably mention that in case you've only just joined us. Shadow Justice Secretary. How has he not been arrested? You know, they know where he is. He's in a hotel, a Crown Plaza hotel at Heathrow Airport. We know that he's come into the country illegally. He was processed through Manston, which is the place in Kent where everybody goes. And he's now been, you know, unlike what was said to be happening, he was not arrested, he was not detained, and he has not been returned, right? Why are the Home Office or the Border Force not just going to arrest him in that hotel?
Yeah, they should go and arrest him tomorrow, shouldn't they?
And
they should
deport today.
Today, quite. And they should deport him.
Yeah,
I mean that's the point.
Right.
Like, we want this person out of our country.
He's basically advising people how to break into Britain.
Yeah.
Surely that is an offence by any stretch of the
imagination.
imagination.
The astonishing thing is, there's been this group of people in our country, these kind of human rights lawyers, and frankly a lot of politicians, who've gone around saying that this is an incredibly complex, uniquely difficult issue.
Yeah.
Actually, it's quite simple.
Really not, yeah.
It's actually quite simple, isn't it? And the people you meet when you go into the camps in France, these people smugglers, these are just jumped up gangsters.
Yeah.
They're not like criminal masterminds.
No.
Like, you can find these people within minutes when you walk into the camps.
Right.
These people just need to be arrested. And you've got to deport all of the migrants when they come into our country. It's really as simple as that. You don't need to spend billions and billions. You don't need to change the law so you can use counter-terrorism powers to go after these people. It's actually relatively simple. It's just that our leaders, and Keir Starmer is the worst example of it, are not prepared to do what actually needs to be done. So they're essentially gaslighting the public every day, saying, we'll change this law, we'll do that, we'll spend £5 million on this or that, in order to distract from the fact that they won't do what actually needs to be done. And they're too bothered about outdated treaties, international law, their own reputations on the sort of gilded circuit of lawyers, to do what really has to be done to make the British public safe.
You're having some success with this kind of citizen MP thing that you're doing, right? Famously, you went on the underground and caught a lot of people walking through gates and not paying and all of that sort of thing. Chris Philp was suddenly picked up on it as well. He was over in France, I think, and he was on a boat in the Channel a couple of days ago. Is this a new thing? Is this how you feel as a politician, that you can kind of communicate better with the people because you won't then be accused of being out of touch?
I think you just need to get stuck in. I think people are sick of hearing politicians.
I mean, were you scared when you were in that camp?
Well, that's a fairly dangerous place, actually. I mean, people have been killed there, and not many people go these days as a result, and some people take security and so on, which we didn't do. But my view is that people don't want to hear politicians just in Westminster making speeches, pontificating. They want to hear people getting stuck in. They want to see them out and about, whether it's in the camps in northern France or just taking up everyday issues like fare dodging, like shoplifting, like tradesmen having their vans broken into and their tools nicked. These are the issues that I've taken up in recent times. And more importantly, getting things done, shaming the authorities into taking action. And if you go back to the fare dodging video that I did, I see from the latest stats that the number of people being fined for not paying their fare on the underground shot up.
I mean,
I've gone up by 50 or 60% as a result.
I've seen more enforcement officers on the tube generally, actually, since then. So
look, I think
take the credit if you will.
Well, it was me and the outcry that happened after the video.
Yeah.
But look, you can get things done, get stuck in, show to the public that you understand everyday issues and you're really trying to make the country a better place.
You had a meeting with JD Vance, I believe, this week in the Cotswolds. He's very concerned, as we all are, about freedom of speech in this country. It's hard to sit here now, I think, as a British subject and say we have free speech, because we don't, do we?
I'm very worried about freedom of speech in our own country, as across the West, as is JD Vance, and I think he's been absolutely right on this issue. I think he did a brilliant speech in Munich.
Did you talk about
earlier
that?
in the year? Yeah, it was one of the topics that came up. And one of the things that I'm particularly worried about now is the Labour government's attempt to create a legal definition of Islamophobia.
Right.
Which I think is going to make it very difficult
Are they still
for people
trying to do that?
They are taking that forward, and that's going to make it very hard to have an honest debate about radical Islam, which I'm really concerned about. We already have a massive problem in this country with hate preachers, with anti-Semitism, and if we get to a point where no one can even mention these things for fear of a knock at the door by the police, then that's a worrying development. And I want the police to be focusing on the things that really matter, like shoplifting and burglary and mobile phone theft, the crimes that are clearly
and what people
not being tackled right now.
Low-level crimes, they call them to the police. But
well, that is not the way any of us think
No.
of it, is it? These are not minor crimes.
No.
They have an immense impact on people's lives.
Right.
You know, think of a tradesman who wakes up in the morning and finds that his van's been broken into and his tools nicked. Well, that's his livelihood destroyed.
Totally.
And customers let down for days, weeks maybe. Sometimes it's hard to recover from that kind of thing. And yet the police often don't even turn up or aren't raiding the car boot sale in which these things are being sold in plain sight. So we need a complete change in the way that policing is done. And I want the courts to step up as well, because I don't understand how someone like Lucy Connolly is in prison for 31 months when you see a case in Hull the other day of a man with 100,000 child sexual abuse images on his computer given a second chance, not sent to jail. This is wrong. This is why people have a sense that there's two-tier justice
that they've
in
lost
this country.
faith. Absolutely right. I've got to ask you about Afghanistan. When you were in government, there was a super injunction sought and granted to Grant Shapps when he was Home Secretary, resulting in tens of thousands of Afghan refugees coming here. As it turns out, many of them probably didn't actually help the British Army. Did you know about that? You were said to have been one of those who knew about it.
Yeah, I was informed in late summer of that year and then actually left government relatively shortly afterwards because I resigned over another immigration issue.
So that wasn't connected? You didn't resign because of...
No, I didn't, although it contributed to the general sense that I had that immigration was being poorly handled by the government and that there was absolutely no capacity in our country to handle all of these people coming in. The scheme that was ultimately set up was established after I left government, so I didn't know about that. But during the period that I was involved in this, myself and Suella Braverman, the then Home Secretary, were having none of it. We said that none of these people could come into the country. We were not booking any more hotels for people. And so almost no Afghans under this scheme or any other came into the country during the period that we were in the Home Office. After we left, a scheme was created by others and numbers rose. What we felt was there's no capacity, the hotel's already a national disgrace without creating more of them, and we were very worried about people coming into this country from a part of the world where there's frankly a medieval attitude towards women. This is something that I've said repeatedly since, and often being criticised for saying it, but I stand by those remarks. There are countries with backwards attitudes, and we should be wide-eyed about the effect of having tens of thousands of those people in our country.
Yeah. Would you kick them all out?
Well, I want us to support the very small number, or relatively small number, of people who did support, brave people who supported our troops, like the interpreters who work with special forces. But all of these other hangers-on who seem to make some tangential claim to have been part of the British effort.
Many of them don't even speak English.
Many of whom don't speak English. They shouldn't be in our country. And it's been a massive failure that those people have been brought in and now it seems are going to be given houses and benefits and an entire life in the UK. Well, I think you've got to be very careful about who who came in, whether they are the right people or not, but I certainly wouldn't have created the scheme that was established.
No. Robert Jenrick, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
To see you. Shadow Justice Secretary Robert Jenrick there. We've got lots more to talk about, matters arising from that conversation, plus lots of other stuff going on as well. Of course, we've also heard this morning that growth has pretty much slowed down to almost a complete and utter stop under this government. Hardly surprising. We've got more coming up after the news. This is Talk. We've been talking this morning about a new theme park which is going to be built, the Universal Studios apparently. You're going to build it in Bedfordshire. We've been asking many of you to give us some ideas for theme parks. Alison in South Wales says in the new theme park at 5 p.m. every day they could have the PIP parade. All the people driving their brand new Motability cars.
Instead of the water rapids, you can have a road you go down that's full of potholes in a car with bad suspension and flat tyres. I don't know why they're bothering building a theme park in this country. They're going right, no one will be able to afford to go to it anyway.
How about the Rachel Reeves ride, says Terry in Birmingham. You go round and round and vanish up your own deficit. It's the HS2 ride. It travels at high speed for 10 feet, where everyone gets off and into the replacement bus ride. Tickets are £50 if bought 5 months in advance, or £1,000 on the day.
There's a strong rumour going around that Rachel Reeves is going to have a kissing booth at this theme park. So what I do, mate, I shove a £5 in a pot and you can go and fill your boots.
Thank you very much indeed, and very generous of you. One from G, who says fast-track entry to every ride for illegals, plus a free night stay in the Parks Hotel and free food. New theme park bumper cars will have to pay a congestion charge, and the funhouse isn't built yet, despite Angela Rayner's pledge to build houses. What about Ghost Train doesn't move because the driver's on strike? Have a good day. This is brilliant for the theme park. How about grow your own cannabis farm? Yeah, that's a good one. An Ethiopian safari park narrated by Angela Rayner. Says Gary in Durham. How about that? This sums up the Labour Party to me. The one idea they have to improve growth for the economy is to basically have a bloody big fun fair. It's the type of idea primary school children would pitch, given 10 minutes to come up with something. Well, it turns out, Matt, in Royston, that it's not even their idea. And they're now trying to claim it's their idea, even though it was actually the Tories.
They have done brilliantly on breakfast, but you know on Drive you've done brilliantly as well. Downhill slide rides surrounded by ULEZ cameras so that people are fined on exit. Love it. You could have a Birmingham-themed Whack the Rat stall. If you whack the rat, you can have your bin emptied for free. On the Labour theme park, a House of Mirrors, where they're all boarded up because they can't bear to look themselves in the eye.
I've got a great one for you, mate.
This is for the. Is this for the Universal theme park run by Labour?
Moat right around the park.
Yeah.
With loads of dinghies. Call it the channel and say anyone who can break in, all is free.
Imagine a Scouser say you can break into a theme park for free.
Hi, Jeremy. Hey, it's simple. You've got.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 6 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham, with you all the way through, of course, until 10 o'clock. The final hour of the show has arrived, incredibly. Zia Yusuf's going to join us very shortly, head of Doge at Reform UK. The breaking news is twofold. GDP figures show economic growth has slowed. Not just slowed, I would say. I would suggest it's actually completely stopped. It's gone down to 0.3% between April to June, and it's being blamed on higher business costs. Well, I'm not surprised. The reason there are higher business costs is because Rachel Bleeding Reeves put higher business costs on all businesses. They're paying more for national insurance. They're paying more for minimum wage. They're paying more for all of their supplies. They're paying more for the raw materials they need to make whatever it is that they're making. Every business. I was talking to Donald McLeod, my good friend who was here yesterday, who runs hospitality businesses in Scotland, right? He was talking about having to spend thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds on paying national insurance, extra amounts of money because of the number of people he employs. And he's had to let people go because simply and utterly speaking, businesses cannot sustain the kinds of investment that they can put into the companies to make them profitable. Rachel Reeves is killing the economy. Meanwhile, Volodymyr Zelensky is going to turn up to meet Keir Starmer today in Downing Street before the big summit between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin in Alaska, which is taking place, of course, tomorrow. We'll bring you all of the news as it happens from Downing Street. But what on earth will Keir Starmer have to offer Volodymyr Zelensky? Let's hope he doesn't offer him any more money, because we can't afford it, quite frankly. We are limit up, as they used to say in the city. Front page of the Daily Mail, we just had Robert Jenrick in. BBC climbs down over xenophobe slur on the top Tory. Robert Jenrick, of course, has had an apology from the BBC for being called a xenophobe. But more importantly, he said he was just with J.D. Vance, where he was told that they worry in America about freedom of speech in this country and how bad the situation is. We got Lucy Connolly, who's going to be released apparently from prison around about the 21st of August, about a week from now. But Donald Trump's US administration has attacked Britain for serious restrictions on free speech over the past year. Meanwhile, we've got more nonsense from the migrant community. We've got the TikTok migrant who's now still living up high on the hog on a very nice hotel, the Crown Plaza, no less, in Heathrow, where he's got 2 single beds and a double bed in his room. He's got an ensuite bathroom. He's got plenty of followers on TikTok, and he's advising them all how to break into Britain. Absolutely incredible. Meanwhile, we've got super dinghies coming over every single day. 107 people now can get on one of these things, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Incredible. Meanwhile, the story that I like the most this morning is all about the NHS, because we've been proved correct once again. It turns out that the NHS have been misleading us about their NHS waiting list. They basically said that they've been falling, and we were told this just this week by that idiot from the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, who found his way onto Plank of the Week, because it turns out the NHS has been removing 260,000 people from the waiting list every single month, either because they've died, either they've gone private, or they've gone abroad. So we're not saving anybody any time at all. This is Morning Glory. Let's get it on. Welcome to the home of common sense. Loving it. Keep on saying it as it is, says Peter in Norwich. This government is morally bankrupt as it feeds and houses illegal immigrants while British veterans are sleeping on the streets. It is obscene. And Jenny in Bicester says the Home Secretary announced people advertising illegal channel crossings online could face up to 5 years in prison under a new offence the government announced. So why has this TikTok migrant not been arrested? Absolutely right. Why is he still languishing there in a nice hotel with, you know, bed and breakfast and lunch and dinner and everything else that he might want in the Crown Plaza? It makes no sense at all. Let's talk to Zia Youssef, see what he's got to say about it. Zia, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I find it very hard to believe, I just said this to Robert Jenrick, this guy, this Afghan migrant who's come here on what is rather euphemistically called a small boat, filmed himself coming, filmed himself at the Crown Plaza Hotel. Why has he not been arrested?
Because we have a police force that appears to be directed by our political class almost solely and exclusively at native Brits and at law-abiding citizens. So if you criticise a Labour councillor, you'll get a knock on the door from police. By the way, if you try and use your Xbox, you'll be asked for photo ID. That happened on the same day that, as you just said, 107 people crammed themselves onto a single vessel and illegally arrived on our shores. And the British people's, I think they've had it up to here. They've had it up to here with being told there's no money left for them. Tough decisions need to be made. We keep hearing that, Mike. And we always hear it when it comes to British people, whether it's winter fuel allowance being taken away from British pensioners who paid into the system their whole lives, or VAT needing to be paid on school fees for parents who are working really hard, or employers now having to pay an extra 2% on national insurance, which is why vacancies and jobs are falling under this Labour government. And yet, when it comes to foreign citizens of foreign countries, particularly ones who have no respect for our laws whatsoever, as demonstrated by the fact that they've come to this country illegally, there is infinite money. And I just do want to add, Mike, that you know, the gentleman you just had on was part of the government that actually delivered almost all of these monstrosities to us. We talk about freedom of speech. It was the Tory government, including Robert Jenrick and Suella Braverman and all of the so-called quote-unquote good ones, who voted the disastrous Online Safety Act. In fact, Suella Braverman's only issue with it, if you look this up, was that the Online Safety Act did not go far enough in censoring British people. So look, the only way we're going to resolve these issues is getting Nigel into number 10, getting a reform government. We've already said we will repeal the Online Safety Act. Tories haven't said that. We need to leave the ECHR. The Tories haven't even committed to do that. By the way, Mike, that's nowhere near enough. Well, also, not only do you have to leave the ECHR, that's the only reason these activist judges point to the ECHR to keep convicted Kenyan rapists in this country because of chicken nuggets or some such. is because it's the lowest hanging fruit. We've also got to disapply a whole multitude of clauses in these international treaties that prioritise the rights of foreign citizens over our own. It's all backwards, and that will change when Nigel's the Prime Minister.
I mean, we've got Vladimir Zelensky flying into to London today to have a meeting with Keir Starmer in Downing Street. And you can bet your bottom dollar, can't you, that Starmer will offer him more money that we don't have. You know, here's another couple of billion, you know, let's have a big man hug outside on the steps and it'll be really great. And we simply can't do this anymore. We can't do it forever.
Well, look, the national debt is closing in on £3 trillion. The amount of interest that we pay each year now surpasses large budgets, like the schools budget, for example. It's larger than our defence budget. So, look, the country now needs to focus on, number one, ensuring that we grow the economy. And what's happening at the moment, again, it started under the Tories, accelerating under Labour. We are chasing away as a country the most formidable wealth creators that we have, is soaking people in tax. And what's happening is the people who pay the most tax, it's the top 1% of income taxpayers that pay about a third of the overall income tax pool. As more and more of those people leave, what happens? Well, the tax burden remains, and so it just goes on to the next broader shoulders in the country. And that's why so many people listening to this program are acutely aware of this. They can feel every time they open their paycheck, they feel like they get less and less for the hard work that they do. Every time they open their energy bill, it seems to go up at an insane rate. The cost of their weekly shop keeps going up at an insane rate. And we've also, by the way, got to ensure that what resources the country does have are directed solely and exclusively for the betterment of citizens of the United Kingdom. If you had political leaders who made decisions through that prism, they would literally be doing almost the opposite of everything that governments have done in this country for about 15, 20 years.
You talked about Robert Jenrick earlier, who was in with us in the last hour. Is there any room for people like him in the reform, do you think?
Well, I think the information that came to light with regards to the Afghanistan program, I mean, he's changed his story with regards, you asked him whether he knew about the Afghanistan, the importation, basically the people smuggling program that was going on, protected by a super injunction. There were multiple programs, just to be clear, but the one that we're talking about here is the Afghanistan Response Route, the ARR. Previously, Robert has said that he did know about it, but he only found out about it after the super injunction was in place, and therefore he would not be protected by parliamentary privilege. That's just not true, and constitutional lawyers, parliamentary lawyers have confirmed that. Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg, from his own party, has confirmed that parliamentary privilege would have protected him. And this is what really matters, Mike. It doesn't really matter. British people are sick and tired of politicians who just provide lip service to stuff, who just say things to win votes. I mean, that's basically what the Tories did, don't forget, for 14 years. Is why we all feel so hoodwinked and betrayed by them when it counted, when he was one of the few people in this country who knew that smuggling was going on, who knew that many of these Afghans, Mike, in that program had been previously rejected in their asylum claim to the UK because of prior sex offences. Knowing all of that, he kept it to himself, despite the fact he was one of a handful of people who knew about it and was protected by parliamentary privilege. In the end, actions speak much louder than words, and the British people won't forget.
I'll take that as a no then, presumably, right?
Well, look, in the end, Nigel's the leader of the party. He will ultimately make these sorts of decisions. But I think British people will make their own decisions about who actually believes in the thing they say. Nigel's got a multi-decade track record of doing this. And I will say this too, having spent now a huge amount of time working with Nigel, he makes huge sacrifices for what he does. And I can say with my hand on my heart, if Nigel was in exactly the same position that Robert was in, and he could have made a difference, he would have warned the British people about it, no doubt about it.
He has got a massive task on his hands, hasn't he? Because you guys are kind of focusing on, initially anyway, the next sort of 6 or 7 months or maybe 10 months to the May elections, where you're going to have the Labour run Welsh Assembly vote up for grabs, you're going to have Scottish Parliament up for grabs, you're going to have loads of local elections which didn't take place this year, and many of which are going to be in places like London and the South East. I mean, you've got to find about 5,000 plus candidates, I think, for all of those roles. I mean, it's just a tough ask, isn't it?
It's a tall order, but we're in the business of tough asks, Mike. I mean, this is a party that is an insurgent party that's really come from nowhere over the last few years, to the point where Nigel's now the bookmaker's favourite to be the next Prime Minister, Reform is joint favourite to be the largest party in the next general election, and we have basically usurped a party that's been around for centuries that called itself, quote, the natural party of government. So we're in the business of tall orders. Yeah, look, the air only gets thinner. We've got to continue to work really hard. I will say this, though, the caliber and quantity of really high quality people coming through wanting to represent reform electorally is phenomenal. It's really heartening. And that's only going to continue because what reform offers, Mike, above all else, is hope to millions of people. We hear this from voters. We hear this from members. Our inboxes are full of it. We hear it when we knock on doors. If for many people, they feel like it is the last hope for the country. I concur with that. I've said before, this is a time-limited mission. I think if we fail to deliver Nigel into number 10 and a reform government at the next election, I think the country may well be beyond saving. That's my honest assessment of things. So we've got to continue to work really hard, and I'm confident we've got a great team and we're going to do it.
And are you finding it easy to raise money as a party? Because, of course, a big problem for an awful lot of political organisations, including the Tories now, I think, is fundraising and is finding the money, finding the donors, getting the people to actually, contribute to the cause.
Yeah, well, look, the vast majority of the revenue of the party, which is spent on campaigns and fighting elections and finding candidates and all of this stuff, comes from our members. And the cool thing is we're the only party with a seriously growing membership, right? We're about 230,000 now. The Tory membership continues to decline. They're obviously terminal decline. The Labour membership, which remember, large parts of that are just unions, right. Forced memberships. Those are continuing to decline as well. So we're ultimately a grassroots funded party. I'll say this too. Look, Labour, in the 12 months running into that May the 1st election, Labour and the Tories both outraised us from large donors 10 to 1. They outraised us from large donors by 10 to 1. And what happened? Reform swept the board. We broke the century-long stranglehold those parties have had on British politics. So, yes, we need to raise money, but we're much more efficient with it because we've got volunteers. We've got people who are willing to go and do the hard yards in the rain, which we're hugely grateful for. We're the only party with the enthusiasm. And so ultimately, we're not concerned.
OK, good to see you. Zia, thank you very much indeed. Zia Yusuf there, head of Doge Reform UK, saying that everything's very healthy in their world in terms of not only their popularity, but also the amount of money that they've basically been able to raise to do what they want to do. This from Tony. It says, tell Robert Jenrick it's not as simple as deportation. Stop them before they get here in the Channel. Well, yeah, there is that. But what about all the people that came from Afghanistan who were actually helped to come here by the government, flown in under cover of darkness in unmarked planes? By the tens of thousands. That was what the Tories did, right? Trump is a Republican president who believes in tax cuts, says Bobbin Chiswick. He doesn't want American dollars to be spent on a foreign war. I think if Zelensky pulls the plug on this peace deal, Trump will pull the plug on financing this war. Well, I think we can show you a little image of Downing Street, which is preparing itself for a visit, yet another visit by Volodymyr Zelensky. He's going to meet Keir Starmer today in Downing Street, in number 10. They've actually put out the red carpet for him. Why? Why have they put out the red carpet for him? He's just another foreign dignitary. Why does he need a red carpet? What's that all about? Rah, rah, Rasputin. It's 9:20.
there was a book for 4-year-olds called Little Red Riding Dude, and it was about a boy that went into the forest and he came across a wolf in a dress who was crying, and he did everything he could to make the wolf feel included. And I thought, wow, that's really interesting. Because if you look at the original fairy tale, this completely flips that narrative, and it says, kids, don't listen to your instincts. If you think somebody's a bit creepy or weird, that's you not.
You should be more inclusive.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory, 23 minutes past 9. I'm Mike Graham with you all the way through until 10 o'clock. Julie Hartley-Brewer will be here, of course, just before 10 to let us know what's coming up. Let's hope Donald Trump moves his focus to sorting out Starmer after the Zelensky-Putin meeting, says Paul. Let's get a voice note from Sarah.
Good morning, Mike. It's Sarah from Croydon. Thank you so much. You speak for all of us. It's so frustrating. It angers me no end. And everything you said this morning was absolutely spot on. Thank you. I'm another self-employed who gets up early, just wonders why I'm doing it, why. And the thing that keeps coming into my head is Trump. They don't know what they're doing. Please play it again because it makes me chuckle. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, let's do it, shall we?
They don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
It's absolutely right. And this is the annual Jeremy Clarkson tweet, which always comes out on A-level day. He says, if your A-level results are disappointing, don't worry. I got a C and 2 U's, and here I am today installing lights for a helicopter landing pad in my garden. It's not bad, is it? Yeah, well done, Jeremy. Thank you very much indeed. You can read his column in The Sun and the Sunday Times, of course, every single week. GDP figures show economic growth has slowed. It only grew by 0.3% between April and June, and it's been blamed on higher business costs. You know, Sherlock would have something to say about that, I'm sure. Let's talk to Sam Armstrong, political consultant with the Free Speech Union, because on the page 2 of The Sun and of all sorts of other papers as well, is America's fear, and J.D. Vance has been echoing this, America's fear that basically Britain has got serious restrictions on free speech, particularly in the past year, since the Labour government have been in charge. Sam, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
We know that J.D. Vance is a great supporter of freedom of speech, and he, I think, said it to Keir Starmer when he was in the White House, that he was a bit worried about it. And Starmer, of course, has repeatedly tried to claim that, you know, oh, we've got plenty of free speech in Britain, you know, we've had it for hundreds of years. He's lying, though, isn't he? Because, once again, he's not telling the truth. We don't have free speech in this country.
Yeah, he can claim what he likes, but since he's got into office, he's busily gone about sending the cops after anybody that's expressed a view that dissents from his worldview, whether that's on Twitter, whether that's on WhatsApp groups with other parents, or whether that's now on the internet, which Keir Starmer and his Science and Technology Minister, Peter Kyle, seem to want to police from top to bottom. And, you know, you've got to ask why, because this is hugely expensive, and it is now manifesting itself into the next stage, which is turning the UK into a literal international pariah. These foreign warnings are usually reserved for China or Iran or Russia, but instead he's turning the UK into a joke. And the only reason I can ascertain for why he might be doing this is to suck up to a certain constituency in this country that he feels will be encouraged by him going after the free speech of those with common sense views, and encouraged by not standing up for British Jews.
Well, and is this all about, as well, their kind of obsession, if you like, and I'm told that they're still chasing it down, with trying to identify what Islamophobia is and trying to give a definition of what Islamophobia is, so they can actually stop us from even discussing certain parts of one particular religion?
Yeah, well, let's be clear. Keir Starmer, by the end of this year, has set about coming up with a new blasphemy law for this country, and it's only going to apply to one religion, Islam. And you simply will not be able to criticise Islam in this country if the Prime Minister, and indeed his Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, get their way. And I can tell you, because I've spoken to people who were there with him this week, J.D. Vance was very, very, very concerned to hear that the UK was pushing ahead with an Islamophobia definition. And if we do, I really think that our trading relationships, our military alliance with the US is in jeopardy. They are not mucking around here. They are really concerned that the UK, which for centuries has been a beacon of freedom, the home of freedom of speech, is being dragged down into the status of a kind of tin pot dictatorship.
Yeah. Because it's not clear, really, in many ways and in many parts of this country, what it is that you can be arrested for, right? I mean, I have these conversations on a pretty much regular basis, right? I was listening to Ian Collins yesterday talking about facial recognition and how important that's going to be in the future for police work, right? But also how dangerous it's going to be, because the police could invent a new crime which may or may not be a crime until you face justice for it, but which they think is something they can arrest you for, and if they recognise your face, they could literally just take you off the streets.
Yeah, and it's getting worse every day. I mean, I was in Margate on Tuesday, where the local Labour Council, and dozens of local Labour councils have done this, have introduced a ban on swearing, have introduced a ban on humiliating people. So if your show, Mike, was broadcast... If your show was broadcast from Margate and you had some numpty lefty come on and make a fool of himself and you humiliated him, you'd be up before the beaks and be given £100 fine. This is a Labour Party that seems to be absolutely determined to set the parameters for what is and isn't acceptable conversation in the country.
Right, but this is the thing. You know, Lucy Connolly obviously is the touch point for all of this, and she's got a picture in the Sun with the piece today. She's supposedly getting out on the 21st of August. But, you know, she has been in prison for the best part of, you know, nearly 3 years for something that she wrote on a social media account. And it doesn't really matter what she said. The point is that would never happen in America. And when we started looking into what was going on in Epping, when people were turning up to have, you know, demonstrations about the migrants in the hotel there, the Bell Hotel, it turned out that the Essex police arrest, and I'm sorry for the weird number, but it's something like 1.4 people a day for some kind of speech crime.
Yeah, and Lucy Connolly, never forget, grooming gang perpetrators, people that organised mass industrial scale child rape in this country, have received lower sentences, less time in prison than Lucy Connolly for one misguided tweet, which was wrong, but was deleted swiftly. And our justice system is attempting to send a message, because that is really what the justice system is about. It's sending a message. And the message is very clear. If you've got these views, if you dissent from this government on its migration policy, on what it's doing to clamp down on the fact that we've got 1.2 foreigners claiming benefits in this country, if you've got views on these topics, if you've got views on how your community is getting policed, if you speak out, if you cross the line, if you stand up to us, we are coming for you, and the police work for us, and we will get you, and we will send you to jail for longer than we are those people that are committing the crimes in your neighbourhood. Yeah,
it's extraordinary, isn't it? Let's have a look at what Starmer said to Donald Trump when he was in Scotland just the other week.
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here, so we're very proud of that.
He's such a... I can't say the word. I'm going to get in trouble. But he just talks absolute cobblers, doesn't he? We're very proud of it. He's not proud of it. He's locked people up for saying things.
Free speech has been safe in this country for the best part of 500-600 years. It was right up until the inhabitants of 10 Downing Street changed to Keir Starmer, in which he used all of his knowledge, all of his experience that he developed as Director of Public Prosecutions last year to clear 500 people out of prison, to move in people that posted tweets, Facebook posts, messages on social media. And at the Free Speech Union, we've represented 3,500 people that have found themselves sacked, found themselves facing police action, found themselves hauled before the courts for expressing their free speech. And time again, it's speech in one direction and one direction only. Do you know what? I'd understand it a little bit if, you know, you saw lefties up all the time for expressing support in favour of this or that fashionable cause. You don't. It is one directional justice. You might even say it's all a bit two-tier.
It is a bit two-tier, isn't it? Absolutely right. Sam, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Sam Armstrong, their political consultant with the Free Speech Union. I mean, I don't know what Keir Starmer thinks he's doing. I don't know what planet he thinks he's on. I don't know what truth he thinks he's giving out. But certainly when he says, well, we've had free speech in this country for a very long time, we're very proud of that, well, he's talking absolute rubbish, isn't he? He's dismantling it single-handedly. We know what he's doing. We see what he's doing. It's very obvious what he's doing. We were talking earlier on as well about the NHS, right? So I've still got plenty of your stories to tell. So let's do some of those. Andy says this: I'm on a waiting list for high blood pressure at the hospital as the doctor has not got a clue. I've been told it's only 11 weeks for the waiting list. Good old Keir and his friends. Yeah, I mean, just 11 weeks. Hayley says, morning, Mike. My mum's waiting for 5 different appointments or operations. She's getting 1 and 2 text messages per week. Do you still need this appointment? Text yes, etc. within 24 hours to keep your appointment, or click this link, complete this form. She's 80 and panics every time she gets them. I have to go round and do it for her. It's a trick to knock her off the waiting list. We are in Nottinghamshire. Yeah. That's exactly what's been going on. Morning, Mike. I had an ENT appointment cancelled twice and then remade just 10 minutes apart. I finally had the appointment on Monday. If everyone is having this done, it's not hard to come to the extra appointments Labour are claiming. Well, that's the thing. If they're now claiming it's something like 4 million extra appointments, or 4.5 million, or possibly 5 million, so I think of a number and add 1 million to it, right? The reason that that is happening is because they are giving everybody at least 4 to 5 appointments for every one that they actually get. So you'll get 4 appointments made, you'll get 4 appointments busted, and then you'll get the 5th appointment, and on that 5th appointment, you'll actually get it. Michelle from Altrincham says this: I've had 3 separate referrals over the past 3 years for a back and hip appointment, and every single time I've chased it up, I've been told there's no record of an appointment. After years of being passed from pillar to post, I've completely lost faith in the process and given up. This is your NHS, guys, right? Front page of the Daily Telegraph, in black and white. It says here, thanks to a study by the Nuffield Trust, they found that 245,000 appointments have been removed from the waiting list every single month because patients have either died, had treatment elsewhere, or moved abroad. So when Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer say they're making more and more appointments than ever, and they're seeing more and more people than ever, I'm afraid, I'm sorry to say this, Downing Street, it's another bloody lie. It's 9:34.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. It's 9:35 with you another 25 minutes, of course. Listen to Zia Yusuf. I would ask him where his boss is. I haven't seen or heard from Nigel for ages. I thought he'd be relishing the fact that he was right all along on illegal immigration. I don't think Nigel Farage is particularly hiding out. He's been on Twitter, I think. He's been on various different social media scenarios. I think he's probably appeared on 1 or 2 TV shows. He'll appear with us again soon, I'm sure. We talk to him on a regular basis. Sarah Pochin was on with us this week. Richard Tice is on occasionally. Morning Glory, says Lynn in Thorngumbold. Where's that? Thorngumbold. Good morning. Robert Jenrick was in power for 14 years, did nothing about any of this. Makes my blood boil. Now he's quoting reform. Maybe he needs to change party if he thinks the same way as Nigel and co. Well, very possibly so. And Carmel says, morning, Mike. The BBC, anyone who uses the term racist or xenophobic towards people who call out the rapes and sexual assault of our women and girls are effectively saying, if your wife, daughter or sister is raped, just accept it and don't complain. It's bizarre. What is this all about? What is the end goal here? It just doesn't make sense. Carmel is in Aberdeenshire. Yeah, listen, I don't understand these lefties who come out constantly and go, yeah, well, you know, there's lots of rapists around, and some of them happen to come from other countries. Doesn't make any difference. You know, we shouldn't be in any way giving them a hard time. We should just welcome them all into the country, give them all a free hotel room, and let them wander around willy-nilly, brazenly abusing and assaulting our women. I don't think so. Out in Epping, they know a thing or two about that, because one of the reasons there's a protest outside the Bell Hotel, and there has been several protests outside the Bell Hotel, is that one of the illegal migrants living there has been charged with the sexual assault and rape of a teenager, right? It turns out that there's now another charge that has been brought on one of the men inside of that hotel, who's been charged with sexually assaulting a male inside the hotel. So not surprisingly, people are not very happy about it. And there's going to be yet another protest, I think, tomorrow. Let's talk to Orla Minahan, who is, of course, a Reform candidate for Epping. Orla, very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you, Mike?
Yeah, very well indeed. Sorry, I've got that wrong. It's tonight, isn't it? The second.
It is tonight.
the protest.
Yes, it's
yeah.
tonight.
So, I mean, obviously, it's an active case. So we, as usual, we have to say we can't get into the ins and outs of what this guy's been accused of. But it's basically another stain on a hotel that was once a very useful, family kind of friendly place where you could go and have your 65th birthday party, or you could have your wedding reception. It's now a sort of no-go zone for everybody in Epping.
That's right. And do you know what, Mike? We've got to a stage where there's a mix of anger, frustration, concern. You know, we're having our 10th demonstration this evening. So this has been weeks of protests, weeks of anger, and apart from that very first Thursday, it's been absolutely peaceful, just very concerned locals, parents. Now we've got to a stage where in about 2 weeks' time, children are going back to school. So there are going to be children that are leaving primary school, going to secondary school, which backs on to the back of the Bell Hotel. Parents are terrified. And now to add to this, another assault, or actually several assaults, and a sexual assault on a man by somebody in this hotel. People are absolutely alarmed. I mean, there are two things. The first thing is we feel validated by the fact we're still protesting and saying, what are you doing? You know, what is the government doing? We're being ignored. The only plus point about all of this is they've taken the fencing down, which is where we were set behind.
It was sort of penning you in, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. 10-foot fencing like animals. Luckily, that's been taken down because of so many complaints, and we seem to be the only demonstration outside a hotel that has been fenced in. But that they've come down. But you know, nothing's happening, Mike. Nothing's changing. Nobody's engaging with us. So the frustration is mounting, the anger's mounting, and the concerns are mounting. Yeah,
and you know, even the local council have become part of your protest, haven't they? On your side, they want the hotel to be closed down. They've written a letter to Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, to ask her to do that, and she apparently hasn't responded, hasn't talked to anybody about it. And even Kemi Badenoch came out and spoke to some of your fellow protesters, I think. But Starmer, I remember speaking to one of your colleagues, you know, right back at the beginning, and I said to her, you know, what do you want from Keir Starmer? She's like, I just want him to come and talk to us, come and see us, come and understand.
He doesn't even need to come. He doesn't even need to come, Mike. He just needs to address it. I mean, there's a COBRA meeting every 2 weeks in this country about X, Y, and Z. Yet all the women and children and families and fathers, you know, are standing outside hotels up and down the country saying our children aren't safe, we are terrified, and yet he can't even say something publicly. You know, it's outrageous. So you can invite everyone from everywhere across the world to talk about, you know, the issues that their countries are having. But in our country, your own citizens are terrified and concerned that not only are we being subjected day in and day out to harassment, abuse, you know, rape, strangulation, God knows what else, but at the same time, our borders are still open and there are still hundreds coming in every day. So the situation is getting worse and worse and worse. Yet Starmer nor Yvette Cooper have even the slightest concern, it would seem, for any of the citizens in this country. They won't even address it.
I know. It's as though it's not going on. I mean, he puts out messages about, you know, we're building, you know, construction centres so that people can learn how to be constructors. We're talking about A-levels today. We're talking about, you know, businesses tomorrow. We're talking about building homes. He's never actually tweeted about not only your particular situation and your particular protest, but about any protest around the migrant
and I just
hotels,
hope that we're going to go away, Mike, and we will not go away. This will not end well. You know, yesterday, again, and of course we can't go into detail, but in Canary Wharf, another incident. You know, it's not that we're, you know, there's been one incident months ago or weeks ago, and we're all standing there, you know, continuously talking about the same thing. It's evolving and happening every day.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
No, carry on. No, I was just going to say, and the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to get, because and I said this 2 weeks ago, you know, with every week that passes, there will be more attacks, there will be more crimes committed, there will be more problems from these people, because they're bad people. I'm sorry, you know, I'm going to say it, because there's no point in pretending that they're all sweetness and light. And we've seen them, we've watched them coming over. We got that guy, the TikTok character who's in the Sun this week, who came in on Saturday after Keir Starmer said he was going to clamp down on every single person that came here. He was going to start detaining them, he was going to start sending them back to France. This guy was in a hotel in Heathrow by Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Mike, on Tuesday night, when we first heard about this incident that had happened, a few of us went to the Bell to find out what was going on, and 3 guys came across the road. I mean, why isn't there a curfew? This is at 9 o'clock at night, wandering around, and then one of them spat and you know, revealed himself, if you like, for one of them.
What, exposed himself?
Yeah. You know,
God.
and we're standing.
Did you report that to the police?
Yeah, we reported him, and actually he was arrested. But you know, this should not be happening. This is, you know, why is this
awful, isn't it?
In a suburban area with decent people who just want the area to be safe. And again, nothing is being done. I just don't know. I mean, apart from getting louder, more protests up and down the country, more anger, I'm not sure what it is that we can do. I've just on that, I've had so many women contact me across the UK saying that there have been assaults in their area, there's been incidents that have happened that they've reported that haven't even been made public. So I think this is the tip of the iceberg, Mike. I think that we can find there is a lot more that just isn't being publicised. And that is terrifying.
It really is. It's a shocking state of affairs. It really is. Something's got to change. It has to change, and very, very soon. Orla, really appreciate you talking to us, and good luck tonight. Thank you very much indeed. Orla Minahan, their Reform candidate for Epping. There's another demonstration there tonight at 6 p.m, of course. And no wonder. These people should not be here, right? We should be kicking them all out. This government needs to get a grip. And that's what it says on the front page, the front page of page 10 on The Sun. Sir Ian Duncan Smith says, get a grip on welfare or a tax bomb will go off this autumn. And let's not forget that an awful lot of the people who are on welfare are people who came here from overseas and they're on benefits because they can't work or because they can't get work. Unbelievable. On hospital waiting list, this one from Kerry, my father was on a list for a hernia operation for 18 months. He had the pre-op assessment and then he got a date for the op, only for it to be cancelled the day before. And then he was told he was too old, so he's not getting the operation anyway. Brilliant. Well done, the NHS. What an absolute crock of nonsense it is. This one from Margaret, who says, Starmer will be sitting there in Downing Street with his legs crossed, shoulder tapping, giving away all of our money on the red carpet. Big hugs all round. And one here from, let's see, who is it? Can I get a name for this one? I can't get a name for it. Report crime, he says. I would like to report that thousands upon thousands of young men are breaking into our country every single day. They are committing the ultimate offence and the police and the government are doing nothing about it. Can anyone tell me who to escalate this to? No, I can't. And Steve says, Starmer is sticking his nose and our money into Ukraine again, whilst our own country is literally being invaded by hostile forces. So much of that to say. Let's get a voice note from Brian.
Morning, Mike. Brian from Southend. Great show as normal. Just listened to your interview with Robert Jenrick. Now, I've always admired the man, or I've always accepted what he says is quite good, but I've lost a bit of respect for him because he talks big, talks mighty, but he wouldn't commit to saying he will deport those that don't belong here. Again, he's like any other politician, waffles around the subject, and doesn't give you an answer. You know, and as for Starmer, again, what the hell's he doing? Trying to act big with his irrelevant coalitions. You know, whatever they discuss is irrelevant because it's not going to happen. Trump ain't going to take any bit of notice of him. And all he's doing is trying to make out he's this big statesman, like he always does, trying to be big on the world stage.
Yeah, I know. I take your point. Certainly Starmer, I agree with you on that. I think Jenrick genuinely is a guy who has seen what he did before and has thought that he probably should have done better. And I think there's a chance that he might actually redeem himself. I think he'd be quite a good leader, to be honest. I didn't think he should beat Kemi Badenoch, and she got the job, and she's doing the job, and she's doing quite a good job of it. But in the end, it's about results, isn't it? And can Robert Jenrick beat Nigel Farage in a straight-on fight for the next election victory? I don't know. It's 9:47.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain? Yeah. Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Morning Glory. Apparently, Volodymyr Zelensky's already arrived at Downing Street, and we missed it. Never mind. Don't really care. As long as we're not giving him any money, that would be the best thing that could happen, let's face it. We don't want to give him any more money. We haven't got any money, quite frankly, and if we do give him any more money, it will end up being us that has to fork out for it in the autumn, because we've got about to now speak to Sir Ian Duncan-Smith, former Conservative Party leader. He's written a piece in the Sun today who says basically that Rachel Reeves needs to get a grip on welfare or a tax bomb will go off this autumn. And the piece says that 22,500 is the national living wage per year after tax and national insurance in 26-27, 25,000 benefits per year for universal credit, housing benefit and PIP, and that's also for 2026-27. I think I'm right in saying that we saw a story yesterday in the Express which said that there's now 8 million people on universal credit. It's not sustainable, is it? People need to get out there and work, surely to God. Let's find out from Sir Ian what he makes of it all. Sir Ian, very good morning to you.
Morning.
We see this morning GDP figures are showing that economic growth has slowed down. It's only grown by something like 0.3% between April and June, being blamed on higher business costs. Business is more expensive now because Rachel Reeves has made it more expensive for everybody. they tried to get welfare reform through the House of Commons and they couldn't do it because their own backbenchers didn't want it. So we're all going to hell in a handcart here, aren't we?
Yeah, the point about the article that I wrote today for today was that there is a way to do this, and it's about making sure, as we had before when we had the benefit cap established, that people on benefit shouldn't be earning more than people who are in work. That's the first thing. The second thing is we got rid of, I mean, COVID was a disaster for us because we got rid of all these checks and the sanctions against people deliberately falling out of work or refusing to take interviews. All that has got to be reintroduced. Also, you've got to be very clear to everybody at all that your purpose in life when you fall unemployed is to get back into work. And so everything must be done to get you into work. There are jobs out there, there are jobs to do, and people need therefore to take that work. And I always say that work is, yes, money, but it's also more than that. It's about building your pride, your sense of yourself, and a positive attitude towards people around you. But right now, what we've seen is a huge number have found their way on to these expensive benefits, and we now need to be pushing them out and back into work, particularly those who claim they can't do work, go on sickness benefit because they've got depression or anxiety or ADHD. I think we've medicalized the normal problems of life. It's time to stop medicalizing them and say the best treatment for depression and anxiety, ADHD, is work. It's a health treatment. So go back to work. Let's get you back into work and let's support you as you go in by all means, but you must now be working. And that's the key. Worst thing you can do, sit at home on benefits, makes your depression worse.
But the trouble with the system, though, Sir Ian, is that it encourages you to not do anything, doesn't it? Because, I mean, if some of the people who are on universal credit who actually do work, maybe they do 2 days a week, or they do 3 days a week, or they do something like, was it less than 16 hours or something like that, in order to continue to qualify for the benefits. And so there's no real incentive for them to do more work, you know, because if they go off the benefits and try to do more work, they end up with less money.
Well, that's the whole point about it. As I said to you earlier on, we had a cap in place, which meant that you shouldn't be able to earn more on benefits than somebody who is in work.
Yeah.
And we also now, the useful thing about universal credit also now knows for the first time all the income inside your household. It's able to tell you whether or not your need for benefits is quite the reality as you lay it out. So we'll know what's in your house, we'll know what the income is, we know who's on benefits. Now we can tailor what we have to do to those individuals to get them back into work. As I said earlier on, sanctions has always been part of that process. If you don't cooperate, if you don't agree to do the right things, if you don't go seeking a job, if you don't take the job or the interview, then you should lose your benefit.
Yeah.
And that's got to be brought back in. Face-to-face, we got rid of face-to-face checks during the pandemic. They're still not fully implemented. Face-to-face is vital because the individual in the job centre is able to say, you haven't done the work that you were meant to do. You haven't prepared for the job. You didn't attend the interview that you were supposed to do. I'm going to sanction you. That's the power that they had before. Taking that away has meant people can just cycle in and out the benefits as much as they like.
Yeah, and that is the problem, isn't it? So, I mean, whenever anybody's tried to, and I know you've tried to do it in the past when you were in government, to sort of tinker with the system and to try and change the way that it operates, there's always some massive roadblock that gets put in the way, whether it's by the unions, whether it's by, you know, the opposition parties, whether it's by, you know, sort of charity advocates and all of that. It's quite a difficult thing to do to change the welfare system, isn't it?
It is, but we did do, we had the lowest number of workless households since records began when I left office.
Right.
Had more than 1,600 people going back into work every single week. So the reality was we had more people in work, more people going into work, fewer people claiming the benefits on that basis because it was made moderately uncomfortable to have to be the claim then you wanted back into work. So the point about this is this all got shot to hell through the COVID area and the government didn't get going and this government hasn't really reacted to it. The fact is we have to make it something that you claim a benefit only in the last resort, that you can't work. And for those who can work, the job of this benefit system is to get them back into work. And the point I laid out in the article is a very clear way of doing it. The government's messed around with it and then found their own backbenchers saying we don't like top slicing PIP, etc. Well, the answer is you didn't even have to do that. What you have to do is make the absolute requirement for people to be seeking work, looking for work taking work when it comes. Otherwise, they get sanctioned. And there's lots of ways of doing it, as I lay out in the article. It should be something the government must do. And also, they've got over 1 million kids who are not in education, employment or training now, which is on record. Yeah. They need to be prioritised. They've raised the cost of jobs for them by lowering the threshold to 5,000 a year, which means that a part-time job becomes almost as expensive as a full-time job, so employers don't want to do it. But what we should do is give a tax credit to them and say, look, employ a young guy or a young woman, and they will receive a lower level of taxation. You'll be able to employ them at a cheaper cost. You've got to get these kids into work, otherwise they'll never get into work ever again.
Yeah, and then they'll never get into the habit of doing it, and it will just be a repeated process of doom and gloom. Serene, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Serene Duncan-Smith there with his piece in The Sun today. He's warned basically Rachel Reeves to get her act together. Basically, she's walking Britain into an alligator pit of maxed out borrowing, higher taxes and stuttering growth. And we got the evidence of that this morning. GDP figures came out and showed that the growth is only 0.3% between April and June. We talked as well about how, again, we were right about how the NHS has been doctoring the figures on their waiting times. This one from Ella, who says, morning, Mike, I need an investigation procedure. I received a hospital appointment in May with an appointment for October, a 22-week wait. I was in pain, so much pain. I went private and cancelled the NHS appointment. My problem was one that needed urgent attention. Perhaps they hope we will be die waiting. Yeah, and Margaret in Yorkshire says, reference to the NHS appointments, my husband has been having treatment for a condition and recently received 2 separate times for the same appointment, one at 10 and one at 3, and then one of them was cancelled. Well, this is how they butcher it. This is how they talk it up. Yeah, we've got 4.5 million new appointments. Yeah, most of them don't happen. Julie Hartley-Brewer's here. Very good morning.
Yeah, but this is the thing, and some people genuinely fall off the waiting list because they've died.
Yes.
I mean, but it's the bureaucracy in the NHS that is the real problem.
Yeah.
And I remember a relative of mine turning up for a cataract operation, but there were 6 people, and only 4 of them could be seen because their notes hadn't arrived for the other 2. And he checked up, and it happened the second time for second eye. This was completely the norm.
Right.
Basically, a third of the people booked in that day.
Yeah.
The bureaucracy is totally
hopeless,
well, it's
isn't it?
third world basically.
Yeah.
It's got
useless.
That is a massive, massive issue. We can speed things up massively.
I know.
But everyone I know, even if they are really struggling financially, is going private at the moment. I mean, they're literally borrowing money, taking out loans, and going private.
And now the private system is getting the same kind of problem.